What did you bring? Hi. Aww. You're so good. Okay, very good. Okay. Here and here is gonna have to go up.
You wanna I'll what is it? That's a full battery, and then I got a new one right in the box too.
Let's leave it on because I think ABC is taking her phone.
Hey, I'm gonna charge my phone.
That is it. Good. Did you think to bring that or? That's bring it. Thank you. Hey Shannon, hey Brooke, y'all are doing an excellent job kind of walking through all the new developments, all the reaction from people. But what we're hearing from Memorial Health here on the scene is that we know that two are inside receiving that life-saving care that they may or may not need. We don't know how critical their conditions are, but we know if they're being taken here and not being treated at Win Army Community Hospital, which is the installations hospital at Fort Stewart. Since they've been taken here, we know that it is a serious condition. We haven't gotten any confirmation yet if a third is coming, but right now, two people are being treated inside. Of course, it's a heartbreaking moment for the community of Hinesville, but also the Fort Stewart community. We just heard from Mayor Van Johnson there, who said we as Savannahans want to do anything that we can to support, and it very much impacts us because you think about Hunter Army Airfield. It's just about 10 minutes down the street from where I'm standing. That's where a bunch of soldiers that are third ID dog-faced soldiers also are located. And here at the hospital, those inside here are doing everything that they can to take care of those two soldiers that were hurt in such a tragic incident.
Some information that they will not want to give out.
Some information that they may ascertain from the suspect right now, because they have a follow-up with certain things. If he's talking to them, we don't know if he's going to be cooperative or not. There have been some suspects that just became mute and exercised their Fifth Amendment right and didn't say anything. And by not saying anything, what they're saying is, you figure it out. You know, you figure it out. If you think I had issues, if you think I had a motive, you figure it out. Put your law enforcement degree to work, whatever. So they're not going to disclose everything because there may be a person or persons that they need to contact that they don't want to give a heads up on, that they're looking for them and want to contact them to try to get information out of them or whatever. But if I was conducting the news conference after this horrific shooting, my main objective would be to have already notified the families of those soldiers that were shot and disclose who they are, what their jobs were at the particular base. I'll always also want to update information on the suspect, give his name, who he was, what his job was, because now once he does,
he can't get specific about like victim conditions or anything, but he is able to talk about the trauma center and how they handle these situations. So I'll give you a heads up. I'm going to try to get his name and spelling and I'll send it to you. Yes.
and I would entertain a few questions and just call it a day and update as needed.
Okay, well, we'll see what they do. I appreciate the layout and the preparation for what we're going to hear now in about 35 minutes. Let's go back over now to Heather, and she has a map. First of all, if you could start off by, for the folks who haven't seen this yet, show us where this active shooting took place.
Yeah, so this is a map of Fort Stewart, and if you look right here, this is actually a map of the base from 2018, but the location where we're talking about is still in the same area. The active shooter was in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team area. So that's in the top part of the screen right up here. It's pretty hard to read, but I can tell you the 2 roads that surround this area where the shooting started of Fort Stewart are Vanguard Road and Rally Point Road. If you've ever been on base there, Fort Stewart, Georgia, about 10,000 people on base, as Jeannie has been saying. This is about 40 miles from Savannah, Georgia. And Admiral Rick Snyder is on the phone with us. I know, sir, you have to go in just a moment, but here we are 4 hours from when the first reports started coming in about an active shooter on Fort Stewart. Just your final thoughts as you weigh in and look at what unfolded there today where 5 soldiers were shot. Admiral Snyder, do we still have you with us?
You do. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Just your final thoughts. I know you have to hop off in just a moment, but your final thoughts as you weigh in on what happened here at Fort Stewart just about 4 hours ago.
Yeah, of course. First of all, a tragic event, and we'll be thinking about those that were injured and everyone else involved that were victims of this. I think the response was really good. As mentioned, it was a large base. There's lots of people on there. They have weapons available, and yet in a very short time, they were able to apprehend the suspect, get the people that needed it to medical care, and then open up the base again to reassure everybody. But it is also a great reminder that we do need to remain vigilant, that unfortunately things like this can happen anywhere at any time. So we have to be vigilant and aware of our surroundings. And then just this cooperation with the local community is always great to see. But my last comment is, of course, thoughts and prayers for the victims here.
Absolutely. Our heart goes out to all of those soldiers, all of the families who are being notified that their loved ones have been shot today. Again, we know that 5 soldiers shot this morning. It all started just before 11 o'clock this morning. Admiral Rick Snyder, thank you so much for your time, for your insight. And I just want to walk our viewers through a timeline of events as it unfolded today. It was 10:56.
I don't know why.
Okay, Chrissy, he's on the way down. I think we'll take a second to set up because he's going to do all the stations at once. So I'll let you know when we're ready to go. Yeah, honestly, Chrissy, the best way to go about it might be to just have the anchors intro it with his name and then just dip into what he wants to say. Because if we're all trying to intro it, it's just going to be a mess.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye. All right, let's take a mic up here.
They're scheduled for 3:30, so in about 30 minutes. And the shooter in custody, 5 soldiers right now at the hospital being treated for their injuries. And the lift down there at Fort Stewart and the surrounding areas has now been lifted. The all clear has been given. We have our Zach Wilcox, who's on scene. Rick Scott. Okay, and we want to thank Admiral Rick Snyder for joining us today. He has to hop off. But Jeannie and Ken, I'll send it back over to you.
All right, thank you so much. We are glad to have we still have Ken Jefferson, always faithful here, staying with us for hours and hours on end. And we did this the day of the FSU shooting, and the same similar feelings of like, oh my gosh, not again. So here we are again. And this affects our military community. We were talking with the state senator up in Georgia, and he was saying how much it hit them so hard. And I was reminding him, of course, and he knows this, but in Jacksonville, we have a huge military community as well. And people are feeling this, and their hearts go out to them. And look at some of this video with me right now, Ken, then we can ask you about it. We're getting a new look at some of the aftermath of the Fort Stewart shooting. Now, what you're seeing now is this is video.
That's why we go into drama. And so I went to school at UVA
Okay.
for both undergrad.
Thank you so much for being here and for working here for 20 years. Awesome. I know you guys take all the not fun calls.
I don't want to name, but we like diseases, and thank God, because we need those people. But that's not me. And the trauma surgeons go into trauma surgery because we like being at the spot at the time, fixing the problem that they have, and that's why we go into trauma. And so there's people, we're opposite ends of the spectrum.
All right.
That's a perfect lead in for us.
Yeah. All right. Hey, y'all. We're ready to go down here. If you can please come to us. Yeah.
I've been basing up our trauma center talking about preventable level 1. Hi, I'm Lydia. It's great to meet you, Bill. And what's your title here?
I'm an attending trauma surgeon.
Yes. So we are here with Dr. William Bromberg. He is a trauma surgeon here at Memorial. And Dr. Bromberg, I know you just said it, but can you tell us a little bit about your background here at Memorial?
Sure. My name is Bill Bromberg. I'm an attending trauma surgeon, which means I've completed a general surgery residency and then advanced training in trauma and critical care. I've been here since my fellowship since 2002. So I'm actually the longest practicing trauma surgeon here at Memorial right now. And what we do is we take care of the critically ill and injured patients. If the normal ER doctors think they need to be admitted or they're sicker than the normal ER doctor sees, we're sort of like the next step for the critically ill and injured patient.
Dr. Bromberg, I know that you can't talk specifically about the patients that you have here from Fort Stewart, but we know that a great deal goes into preparing to take on critical patients like those patients from Fort Stewart likely are. Can you walk us through the process of what y'all go through when you get a call that you have gunshot victims coming in is?
Absolutely. And that's really what sets a trauma center apart from non-trauma hospitals that have emergency departments. We are expected to have a very vast array of resources ready before the call comes in. So when we get a call, whether it's a gunshot wound or somebody fell off a ladder and the EMS people think they're critically injured, we get a phone call that says they're coming in 15 minutes. At that time, that phone call goes out to an attending trauma surgeon, a critical care fellow who is a resident completing more training, 2 surgery residents, usually a surgery nurse practitioner. Minutes of that person.
I've been basing up our trauma center talking about preventable level 1. Hi, I'm Lydia. It's great to meet you, Bill. And what's your title here?
He is a trauma surgeon.
Sure. General surgery residency and then advanced training in trauma and critical care. I've been here since my fellowship since 2002. So I'm actually the longest practicing trauma surgeon here at Memorial right now. And what we do is we take care of the critically ill and injured patients. If the normal ER doctors think they need to be admitted or they're sicker than the normal ER doctor sees, we're sort of like the next step for the critically ill and injured patient.
Dr. Bromberg, I know that you can't talk specifically about the patients that you have here from Fort Stewart, but we know that a great deal goes into preparing to take on critical patients like those patients from Fort Stewart likely are. Can you walk us through the process of what y'all go through when you get a call that you have gunshot victims coming in is?
Absolutely. And that's really what sets a trauma center apart from non-trauma hospitals that have emergency departments. We are expected to have a very vast array of resources ready before the call comes in. So when we get a call, whether it's a gunshot wound or somebody fell off a ladder and the EMS people think they're critically injured, we get a phone call that says they're coming in 15 minutes. At that time, that phone call goes out to an attending trauma surgeon, a critical care fellow who is a resident completing more training, 2 surgery residents, usually a surgery nurse practitioner, 2 specially trained ER nurses, a respiratory therapist, a radiology tech, and a pharmacist. And they all are expected to be waiting for the trauma patient before that person hits the door. So you can imagine how much resources have to be put into that and how much preparation. We also have blood available in the emergency department in a cooler right there, so we can give people blood instantly if we need it. Our blood bank can give us the next 6 units of blood within 20 minutes of that person rolling in the door, with us having the first 2 units available immediately. So here's a plug, guys. Give blood. We need it. So go out there and give blood. What else can I tell you about our trauma system?
I'll ask you a quick question. If you're just joining us now, you can't tell us any specifics about their condition in there, but tell me what it's like when it comes to treating somebody that is a service member. Is there a heavy weight that comes with that? Treating somebody who has signed up to serve our country. I know you treat everybody the same, but there's got to be a different feel in that ER right now.
Absolutely. Savannah is well known to be a military community. Our program director, our trauma program director, my boss basically, completed a naval career prior to becoming our trauma director here. And we've always had a very deep connection with the military. It adds a couple of things. There's usually more people to talk to, right? The commanders are allowed to ask some details that, like, other, if your boss came and asked the stuff we couldn't tell you, so we have to talk to multi-level people. We also get a great deal of support. They all come in with a buddy, so there's always somebody there with them, which is real touching for us. But yeah, we really care about our military.
And being the only level 1 trauma center here in the area, what does that mean when things like this, incidents of this magnitude happen? How does that affect your staff and your readiness, and you guys being the only ones who can do the job?
Well, we have to be available all the time, and we have to have the resources there all the time, which it costs money. I mean, that's really you imagine all those people just being ready and waiting. We do other stuff between traumas. We take care of the patients that are already admitted, but really it's a great deal of resources that are in preparation. We are the only trauma center between Charleston, Jacksonville, and Macon. That is a huge catchment area, and people come in from across the street, and people come in from hours away, and we have to be there for everybody. And the number of our major traumas has gone up since when I came here 20 years ago. We did 1,200 major trauma admissions a year, about 2,000 admissions. Like, they're not really sick enough to be called trauma, but they get admitted to trauma service. We're up to over 2,500 major traumas last year and almost 4,000 total admissions. So it's, as the population grows, so does the number of people that get hurt. And we're there to provide that service to the community.
Doctor, over the past couple of weeks, we've had a shooting at Oglethorpe Mall that required people to be treated here at Memorial. We've had this shooting on Fort Stewart today. You and your staff and everybody that works in this emergency room to treat gunshot victims, is there any, are they tired of having to treat gunshot victims? And I don't mean in the sense of they don't want to do it anymore, but is there any frustration seeing this continually come through your emergency room?
Well, it's always sad. We don't, we would all love to be able to, like me, I'd love to go teach scuba diving. That would be my dream, right? If no more people got injured, I could find something to do. That being said, gunshots often and of the type we see are young. They it's just really sad, and we would like to do everything we can to prevent that. We are involved in the violence interdiction program, where we try to cut the cycle of violence when you have a shooting that may be gang related, to try to go out and prevent the cycle of shootings. So we're involved in that stuff, and that's one of the things that level 1 trauma centers have to do, is be part of trauma prevention programs, and we're very proud of that. So yeah, I would absolutely love it if people would stop shooting each other.
And specifically treating a gunshot wound, today people were consuming might be some gunshot wounds, as well as incidents we've seen in the last couple of weeks. What specifically goes into that?
Well, honestly, treating gunshot wounds can be the type of injury that requires the most technical expertise but the least amount of thought, right? If you are in a bad car accident, you can be injured and us not really see it. It can all be invisible and inside and internal bleeding. Gunshot wounds, honestly, you can think about it as there's a hole, sorry. Everything in between those holes has a hole in it. And you literally need to stop the bleeding or sew up any leakage of any other things that could be leaking, like your intestines and stuff. So it's actually, it can require good technical expertise, right? Somebody's bleeding to death, you have to stop that bleeding right away. But honestly, it's almost the least amount of mental exercise that we have to do. And we are very good at stopping that bleeding. So patients that hit the trauma bay door, if we know they're coming, we meet them at the door, they can get blood within 2 to 5 minutes if they need it, and we can get them into the operating room and operating on them in less than 15 minutes, which is a requirement for a trauma center. So we can really do that quickly. We're very good at that. And that's really what it entails. It's deciding right away if somebody's bleeding enough or has something injured that needs an operation, and getting them from the trauma bay, where we do that assessment, to the operating room where we actually fix the problem as fast as we can in a safe manner.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We just want to thank you for all you're doing for those service members inside. I definitely noticed.
All right, that was Dr. William Bromberg from the trauma center here at Memorial Hospital. He was unable to talk about specifics as to the condition of the soldiers that have been brought here today, but he was able to speak to the situation, in the emergency room, how they were able to prepare to receive these gunshot victims, and about how his staff is dealing with multiple mass casualty situations in the last several weeks, that being the Oglethorpe Mall shooting just last month, as well as this situation on Fort Stewart today. So lots of good information there from him. We are still pressing the Army for information on how the victims in this situation are doing. For now, I'm going to send it back to the studio. Thank you.
Several schools just outside the base. They locked down out of an abundance of caution. Now that lockdown at the schools as well, that's over. Kids are safe. Emergency crews arrived and were treating the injured soldiers at 11:09. And then by 11:35, you see there on our timeline on your screen, the shooter was arrested. That's 39 minutes after officials were sent to the scene. Fort Stewart
perfectly. They handled it perfectly. They responded in a very timely manner. They knew where to go because they had been practicing or having training exercises along with the military. You have an abundance of military personnel there, so you were not lacking bodies or resources to be able to use to hunt this person down, as well as to render aid to those that were injured. They transported them to the hospital, and then they went back and they started securing all of the scenes and lifting the lockdowns. They did everything right.
So we've been talking about how the suspect, the shooter in the situation, the alleged shooter, it seems like all the media outlets are reporting that it's a male and he was part of the Army. So apparently shot his colleagues. But CNN is reporting, and this has been CNN's reporting, that their sources say that he was a sergeant. So that kind of takes it to a different level. And we were talking with Admiral Snyder, and he said that for a sergeant, he's probably, that is the 5th rank up in the enlisted community. Typically, a sergeant will have been in the military 4 to 6 years, been on a 2 or 3 deployment missions, and in the field or on the deck if you're on the Navy, but in this case, in the field in the Army, is a leadership position. So that may say a lot.
Yeah, even though he was in a leadership position, nobody at this point knows what he was going through or what caused him to snap, if you will, to commit this horrific act. So a lot of unanswered questions. Maybe some of those questions might be answered during the press conference at 3:30. I don't know. I don't know what level of information they want to release right now, because it is an ongoing investigation. So even though you've got a suspect in custody, even though you secured and cleared all the areas, it's still an ongoing investigation. And sometimes there are things that they don't want to disclose, where it seems, well, the lay person would say, well, wait a minute now, he shot 5 people, they're in the hospital, you apprehended the suspect, he's in custody, you cleared the area, why can't you tell us everything? Well, that's not how it works. They got to do a thorough investigation, because he's going to have to stand trial or confess or work out a plea deal or something. He's going to have to go through the judicial system, and you don't want to be caught with a half-shot investigation because you got all these things working in your favor. You still have to do your due diligence as law enforcement to make sure you dot all your I's and cross all your T's.
So let's talk about the protocol as far as, would they call a mother, a grandmother, an aunt, a sister, a friend, and have them come into the investigative area, a police station or the base, or how far out does that web go?
Are you saying the relative of the suspect?
Yes.
No, they will visit them. They will go to them in most cases. They won't wait for them to come to the base or wherever they want to conduct an interview. They will go to either their place of employment or where they live and tell them we've got some very important questions that we need to ask you, and brief them on what happened and expect to get cooperation from them.
So they may be doing that right now.
They are.
Yeah, they are doing that.
I would bet you they are doing that right now.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right now, let's go over to Heather. I think she has some new information to share. Thanks, Ken.
All right, Jeannie, we are monitoring all the information coming in about this active shooter situation that unfolded a little over 4 hours ago there on the Fort Stewart base in Georgia. I want to tell you, we just got a new piece of information from NBC News. We are awaiting a press briefing that's going to take place at 3:30 this afternoon. The new information just being reported by NBC News is that they have been speaking with 3 senior law enforcement officials, briefed on the matter, telling NBC News that the person who allegedly opened fire at Fort Stewart does have prior ties here to Florida. We are working to get more information. We do not know if that alleged shooter's name, is going to be released at the press conference at 3:30, but we do know that the alleged shooter, was taken into custody about 39 minutes after the first shots were reported to be fired there on the base at Fort Stewart. As you've been hearing, we heard the trauma center doctor speaking, saying that they weren't able to give us information on the soldiers' conditions who are at that trauma center. But we know at least 2 of the soldiers were transported to the Savannah area to be treated at that level 1 trauma center, which means the injuries likely are severe. There are 3 other soldiers that we believe are being treated at a non-trauma center. We have not gotten any updates on their condition. As far as we know, all of those who were injured are alive and being treated. But again, that news conference is coming up in about 12 minutes. We're going to be carrying it here live on First Coast News and firstcoastnews.com. We do not know what led up to today's shooting. And so a lot of the questions we still have is why? What is the motive? Were there warning signs? Could something have been done to prevent this? And as you've been hearing our crime and safety analyst Ken Jefferson say, and Admiral Rick Snyder, the response looks to be like it was by the book. Nothing stands out as far as the response goes other than it went according to plan. This is file video. This was from earlier today on the base. The lift down there at Fort Stewart has been lifted. You saw earlier fire trucks and ambulances and police departments, police cars rushing into that scene to assist the military police with the investigation and to get help to those 5 soldiers who were injured. 2 of them, at least 2 of them, taken by ambulance due to the weather. They couldn't put the chopper up to that level 1 trauma center. And so we are still working to get more information about who this alleged shooter is. He is alive. He is in police custody. We imagine that he's being questioned by police as to whether or not he's speaking with them or giving them any information. That we do not know. But NBC News, citing 3 senior law enforcement officials who were briefed on the matter, saying that the accused alleged shooter has prior ties to Florida. Which part of Florida? We're not sure. We're working to get that information. But again, that press briefing is going to happen in 10 minutes. And this is video right here as you see the ambulances pulling in to the hospital earlier today. Jeannie?
So let's talk a little bit about Ken Jefferson. With Ken Jefferson, he is adjusting some technical equipment for us to make sure he can hear clearly when this press conference is going to go on, because you'll be able to give us some insight about what you've heard from the Army base there. But if this shooter does have prior ties to Florida, as NBC is now reporting this new information, they say it's from 3 law enforcement officials briefed on the matter. Those ties, I'm sure people are going, well, what would those ties be? We don't know for sure, but what could they possibly be?
Don't know. Don't know. What
could have been
what
at a
the
base
ties-
here, maybe, or
Could have been.
lived here?
Could have been just lived here, worked here,
Could have
have
been
family here.
anywhere in Florida.
Yeah. So if they're reporting it now, we may get clarification on at the news conference.
That's true. And then as far as medical updates, what are the laws as far as the military and working with law enforcement? What can we find out? I know there are HIPAA concerns about the conditions. What do you expect?
The only thing they're going to tell you is the condition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are our status, if you will, stable, critical, or whatever. They're not going to go into detail with it because of what you just said, HIPAA laws.
Yeah, I remember after the FSU shooting, we had a whole team of doctors that were at the trauma center, were at the hospital when the students and people were taken there, and they were very careful. They didn't talk about the certain wounds. They wouldn't even say where on their bodies they were shot, and they had to obey the law.
And you know, they have to be very careful with that in disclosing that private information, unless a patient signs off on it and say, yeah, you can say whatever you want to say about me, but they're going to err on the side of caution and stay away from that.
Talk to us about the tech world now and how the tech world is involved in hunting down the information. I picture people on computers right now trying to delve into all his social media, any ties he might have to international terrorism groups. We don't know that's the case, but what's going on behind the scenes?
Well, they have units that specializes in that sort of thing. When this sort of thing happens, you've got a team of workers that's doing all of that tech work. So you got a lot of moving parts going on at the same time, Gene. You got your field force, the people that's on the boots on the ground that's conducting the searches and the apprehension. Then you've got your detectives that's going to come in to interview and interrogate the individual. Then you've got your technical officers that's doing everything cyberly, if you will, checking social media, checking his background, doing an in-depth background search on him. As they get that information, they shove it out, and those officers are on the ground going to those different areas to investigate and look into what they can find. You know, of course, social media is the easiest thing that they're going to start with, but all of the other in-depth background stuff, that's what they're doing now.
We're talking about the United States military. I mean, this is a big deal. So what other law enforcement groups from around the world would be involved?
Around the world, I'm not sure, but you know, you got your local, regional, and in this case, your national that's involved with this. The whole world is watching to see how it's handled. And so far, they're getting a 5-star rating on how they've handled everything. And as the days go on and as the investigation go on and as they release more information, they'll be graded on that as well. But from the looks of it, they have prepared for an incident such as this. They were ready for it. They responded accordingly based on their training and experience and expertise. And they've got a suspect in custody in record time, 39 minutes. There was nowhere for this person to hide, by the way. Let me just add that. Even though that's one of the largest bases there, which means that they've got a large population of soldiers there. There weren't very many places he could hide and get away with it. So,
well, we often hear about suicide by cop. In this situation, suicide by another military member. He knows, as you're saying, that he's not going to get away with that. He's in a contained area. He's behind a fence or in a building, possibly. Admiral Snyder was saying this area where the shooting happened can say, I'm going to stop my sentence midway because our producer's telling us that we have a report from NBC. And as I'm hearing it in my ear, the shooter's identity is now being given Cornelius Radford with prior ties to Florida. So let me repeat that because I'm hearing it in my ear along with you just right now at this very second. The shooter's identity, according to NBC News, has been confirmed to be Cornelius Radford with ties to Florida, prior ties to Florida. Again, we don't know what that means, but some sort of link to the state where we live, and not excluding our Georgia viewers, but
we're not sure what his ties are or were. Maybe he was stationed here at one time or the other at one of our military bases, or maybe he has family here. We'll find out.
Yeah, we're going to find out more at 3:30. And then also, so back to what we were talking about before, the ties and the law enforcement gathering, the cooperation between the military and the technical expertise in the federal government now has to be going full force.
Oh, it is, and it has been going on since this incident happened. It's not just starting. And some of the information that'll be revealed at 3:30 is probably will be a result of some of that information that has already been gathered. It's very unfortunate that not so long ago we were talking about the same thing, a mass shooting where an individual takes a weapon and just start wreaking havoc on individuals for no good reason. There's no good reason why you're just going to start shooting down people as they're in your way or your target, if you will. Maybe we'll find that out too if these individuals or one or two of them were targeted by this shooter. So there's a lot of unanswered questions right now that we're talking about. We don't have the answers to, but hopefully we'll find out.
Would it surprise you, for all the work you've done behind the scenes with people who've done violence to other folks, that he would not have some sort of manifesto or writings on social media, that he'd be just completely a dark horse and nobody knows what his thoughts are?
It would surprise me if he didn't have it.
Yeah,
that's a good question. And it would be hard to think that he just woke up this morning and said, I'm going to shoot people.
Mm-hmm. And right now we're taking a live picture right now at the news conference area there at Fort Stewart. Our Zach Wilcox is there with our photographer, getting ready to broadcast that live for you in less than 3 minutes. They're outside one of the main gates of Fort Stewart, and we are hoping to get lots more information for everybody. I'm sure you all have questions. We don't know how much information will be given, but obviously they have something to tell because they have gathered everyone there outside Fort Stewart to give us information at 3:30. And I've never seen them call a news conference that they just don't say anything and say no comment. So we know they're going to give out some sort of details.
So yeah, they'll give us. There is.
Okay, someone's at the podium, but that's probably they're getting everything set up. That's typical for a press conference. And Heather, what do you see from your end over there?
Yeah, Jeannie, I was just looking through social media, and I just want to reiterate this statement that Georgia Governor Brian Kemp put out a couple of hours ago, just saying, as we remain in close contact with law enforcement on the ground, he says, Marty and the girls and I are saddened by today's tragedy at Fort Stewart. We're keeping the victims, their families, and all those who answer the call to serve in our hearts and prayers. And we ask that Georgians everywhere do the same. And I think everyone who hears this story about what unfolded on a military base this morning, just before 11 o'clock this morning, our hearts go out to those soldiers. Let's go live now to Fort Stewart for the update from the base commander.
Last name is Tomko, Tomko, and I'm the spokesperson for the 3rd Infantry Division. Today, we're here to discuss the incident that took place earlier today on the north side of Fort Stewart installation at the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team footprint. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce you to Brigadier General John Lubis. That's spelled J-O-H-N, Lubis, L-U-B-A-S. He's the commanding general of the 3rd Infantry Division. Brigadier General Lubis will make a statement regarding the incident and take a few brief questions. Before we begin, however, I'd like to go over just a couple things with you. We have limited time for questions given that this is an ongoing investigation, and we may not have all the information that we can share, but we will try to be as transparent as possible. We will not release the name of any victims until the next of kin notification has been complete. We will not speculate as to any intentions, motives, or backstories, given that this is an ongoing investigation. When you ask your questions, we ask that you please give your name and the affiliation in case we need to do a follow-up. And it's a little hard to hear, so please speak up so that General Lubis can hear you and that you can hear him. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will now turn it over to General Lubis.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. This morning, shortly before 11 o'clock, an active duty soldier assigned to Fort Stewart, Georgia, shot and wounded 5 of his fellow soldiers here on Fort Stewart. Thankfully, all are in stable condition and all are expected to recover. The alleged shooter is in custody. We have reestablished security. I have lifted all lockdown measures on Fort Stewart, and there is currently no threat to the local community. I'd like to recognize and thank our Army law enforcement and medical personnel and our partners from local, state, and federal law enforcement and emergency services for their quick response and support. I would also like to thank the brave soldiers who immediately intervened and subdued the shooter. These soldiers, without a doubt, prevented further casualties. Our wounded soldiers were initially evacuated to Wynn Army Community Hospital right here on Fort Stewart. All arrived in stable condition, and 3 of the 5 required surgical intervention. 2 have been transported to Memorial Hospital in Savannah, Georgia for additional care. We have identified the alleged shooter as Sergeant Cornelius Radford, an automated logistics sergeant assigned to 2nd Brigade Combat Team. Sergeant Radford has not previously deployed to combat. Sergeant Radford has been interviewed by the Army Criminal Investigation Division and is currently in pretrial confinement, awaiting a charging decision by the Office of the Special Trial Counsel. Right now, our primary focus is first on caring for our injured soldiers and their families, and also supporting the soldiers of the Spartan Brigade. All of the families of the victims have been notified, and we're wrapping our arms around them and ensuring we provide them all the support that we can. Before I take questions, I want to remind you that this is an ongoing investigation and we're still gathering questions. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll now take your questions.
General Lewis will be in Coastal News. Can you give us his what unit he was assigned to and how long he served in the Army? If you didn't mention that.
Yeah, he is assigned to one of our sustainment units here in 2nd Brigade Combat Team at Fort Stewart. And I will have to confirm how long he served with us. Yes, sir.
Russ Bynum with the Associated Press. As best you can, knowing it's so early, can you walk us through where this happened, what happened in the shooting, and were the victims subordinates of the sergeants, or were they people over him in rank?
Yeah, right now it's premature, and we're gathering a lot of the information. What we know is this soldier, the shooting occurred at the soldier's place of work. It did involve his co-workers. We're still not certain about the motivations, but again, he's been interviewed by Army investigators, and we believe we'll gain more information here shortly. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. We don't have any reason to believe it had anything to do with a training event. Other than that, I can't state the motivations for this soldier.
We've heard that the shooter
shooter
Yes, sir.
may have been from Jacksonville, Florida. Are you able to confirm that? We also heard that he maybe been arrested for DUI recently.
Yeah, at this point, I can't confirm where he's from. We can follow up on that. I do believe he was arrested locally for a DUI that was unknown to his chain of command until the event occurred, and we started looking into the law enforcement databases.
Robin, now from the current, can you tell us whether or not that was a military weapon or whether this is a personal weapon that the person brought on base?
Yes, ma'am. I can confirm it was not a military weapon, and we believe it was a personal handgun. Yes, sir.
What does this mean for ongoing security measures that this situation was able to occur with this weapon?
Yeah, I'm very confident in the security of this installation. We've got a great partnership with local law enforcement. As you can see here at our gates, we have armed guards in protective equipment. This one's a bit difficult, and we're going to have to determine how he was able to get a handgun to his place of duty.
LCLA News for Jack. Has the suspect had any prior disciplinary or behavioral issues on base?
No, ma'am, not that we're aware of. But again, it's early in the investigation, but not that I'm currently aware of. I don't have the details on that, but I know that his soldiers in the area that witnessed the shooting immediately and without hesitation tackled the soldiers, subdued him, that allowed law enforcement to then take him into custody.
And we have one more question.
I know that you can't speak to the motivation, but if this turns out to be some situation where somebody had extremist beliefs or maybe classified as a terrorist attack, I mean, how does that change the basis response and the basis investigation moving forward?
Yeah, currently we have no reason to believe any of that is the case. However, we continuously assess the threat environment, both in the immediate area and across our Army and DoD installations, and we will address the threat level accordingly. Yes, sir. He was a sergeant. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your questions. And again, thanks to the local responders and the local community for their help. Thanks and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I'm going to give you the proper spelling.
So let's start with the good news, Ken, and that is all 5 soldiers shot are expected to recover. They're in stable condition. So that is an answer to a lot of people's thoughts and prayers right then and there at the top of that news conference. We were just hearing now from Commander General of the 3rd Infantry Division, John Lubas. He gave us an update on what happened with the active shooter situation today at Fort Stewart. Let me go back over some of these notes and I'll stop and start and you can give us some comment as you heard that. We had told you earlier that CNN was reporting that he was a sergeant. Indeed, that was confirmed right then. He said he was an automated logistics sergeant, never deployed to a combat area, but they did mention that he'd been in some trouble with the law there locally in that area, had a DUI, and his chain of command did not know about that.
Right. So we learned the name, the confirmed name. We learned his rank. We learned that he shot his co-workers. Still short of a motive, don't know the motive yet. And we learned that he was involved with law enforcement by being arrested with the DUI that the command did not know about at that particular time. I don't know when it happened. Did it happen 2 days ago, 3 days ago? He hadn't told them, or he was trying to keep it away from them. So we're learning a little bit more about the shooter.
And then we don't like to report anything that we haven't confirmed, but you all heard it because it was right there at the news conference. Somebody asked him, well, I heard he had ties to Jacksonville, Florida. That was not confirmed. We don't know that yet, but it was asked, and everybody heard that at the news conference. We also learned that he did not use a military weapon. He was using a personal handgun. Yeah,
the general confirmed that it was not a military weapon, but he also confirmed that he's going to find out how he managed to get that personal weapon into his workplace. So obviously they have rules and restrictions on personal weapons. We know that at a military base there are many weapons, but they're not supposed to be personal weapons there.
How could that be a security breach? How could that happen?
That's what he's going to find out.
Yeah, he's going to find out, exactly. Yeah. And also he talked about some verification for us because we had heard that maybe 2, possibly 3 people have been taken to Memorial Hospital, which is a level 1 trauma center in Savannah. He confirmed that 2 of the soldiers were at the level 1 trauma center at Memorial. 3 of the 5 have had some kind of surgery, but all the families have been notified of all the soldiers who have been shot now. so now they can start interrogating and talking to the suspected shooters' families.
Absolutely, absolutely. And he said that they're all expected to recover. So that's good news as well. That means they're in stable condition. Their vitals are stable, and they're all expected to recover. And um, the general and law enforcement will not wait for a status on the victims before they talk to the family. After he was taken into custody and they identified him and managed to do a background on, that's when all that starts. They don't wait for those things because, if family members had prior knowledge of, they may want to flee and you can't get any information out of them. So once they learn who he is and do a background check on him, they're immediately going to family members, friends, neighbors, place of residence, and all those places and get started immediately. And that's why he wasn't adamant, but he was firm that it's still an ongoing investigation, and they prepped everybody as to what not to ask because this is all the information that he's going to be able to give out.
Yeah, and they made the point to give his name clearly. The shooter's ID is Radford Cornelius with prior ties to Florida somehow, but we still don't know what yet. But it is interesting that he has not been deployed to a combat area, but he did shoot coworkers at his place of work.
Mm-hmm. We don't know he didn't say how long he'd been in the Army as well. So maybe it just hadn't been time for him to be deployed to a combat area. I don't know. I don't know those military rules as far as that's concerned. But he made it a point to say that he had not been deployed to a combat area. Maybe he said that to show that he was not specifically a proficient shooter or trained in that area of combat. I don't know. But he did make it a point to say that.
And the Commander General, John Lubis, said also as well that he is talking to law enforcement or police units who are asking questions of him now. He is talking to investigators.
So it sounds like he's cooperating with law enforcement officials. And sometimes, suspects or cooperators, they want to get closure for themselves. They know they committed an horrific act. They know that they're going to have to be held responsible for it. They know that they're going to have to suffer the consequences for it. And sometimes in their remorse, if he has any, but sometimes in their remorse, they just want to let it out and cooperate and be very repentful for what they've done.
And as we're listening to this, you're wondering, or I am as a layman, how do they approach the questioning at this point? I mean, you've got to be very careful so you can get all the information and not have him clam up or tell lies or whatever. What is the strategy? I know you've been in those interrogation rooms.
Yeah, I've been in interrogation rooms and I've interrogated suspects. You want to get them in a talking mood. You ease into the questions. You ask some questions that you already know the answers to in the beginning, just to see if they're going to be forthcoming to you. They know the answers to a lot of the questions already, so they'll ask those questions and see how cooperative he wants to be. And then they'll ease into the serious questions that they want to get answers for.
And so as we're kind of wrapping this up from the news conference here, as a law enforcement professional, as an expert in this field, what are, say, the 3 things you just heard from that news conference that you think are the most important at this point?
Number one, that all of the soldiers are expected to recover. Number one, they're all in stable condition. Number 2, we have the information on the suspect that they need to conduct a thorough investigation. And number 3, he's going to be held responsible for everything he's done to wreak havoc on these families.
And if there is any breach in the security, he had a personal handgun on a military base and shot coworkers. So that is going to be debated and definitely investigated.
You're going to be caught in the crosshairs of the general as to why that weapon got on the work site.
Are there pat downs when you go on, metal detectors? Or I know you're not on a military base, but
it's been years since I've been to this particular base, and I went in uniform, so I wasn't pat down because I had my sidearm on my hip. But he wasn't a civilian; he was a soldier. They're not going to pat him down. They're not going to frisk him or do anything like that. They're going to let him through the gate.
You and I had a discussion earlier before we found out all this information. I think the question is still relevant: is that he knew he wasn't going to get out?
No, he couldn't.
He had nowhere to run.
No, he's in an isolated area. This is a naval base. It's a huge naval base. He could have picked some places he wanted to try to hide, but they've got thousands of soldiers there. He was going to be found, dead or alive. He was going to be found. Had he committed suicide, they would have found him. Had he continued to go from place to place to hide, they were going to find him. As they searched the areas of this particular base, as they cleared it, they lifted the lockdown on that particular area. So that means that there was going to be cornering in on this particular suspect. So, but it didn't take them very long to find him.
And you're right. You've been saying for a couple hours now, obviously they believe they have the one person that they needed to have in custody. And there is definitely not another dangerous threat.
Yeah, you know, they wouldn't hold a news conference with all these civilians around being very vulnerable if they thought there was another suspect that they were looking for. They wouldn't have even gathered everybody. They would still be continuing looking for somebody and telling the press, hold off, we're working, we'll give you information when we can. But they feel confident, they know that he's a lone wolf, and they've cleared the area and the base is safe.
And you were talking earlier about how it could be that sometimes these suspects plant dangerous devices, perhaps bombs or incendiary devices, at a mother's home or their residence outside where they were doing the shooting. But they cleared the community and said early on, hours ago, that the community is safe.
Yeah. So as I said, as this happened, and as soon as he was taken into custody and they identified him, that's when all that stuff happens. All those searches and things began. Had there been an incendiary device somewhere where he lived or family member, we would know by now because they've already been there. And right now, they're talking, as we speak, they're talking to family members, they're talking to neighbors to try to find out more information about this individual. And they may even be coming to Jacksonville to talk to some people and see if they confirm that he does have ties to Jacksonville.
We'll see, and we don't know that yet, but there's some sort of prior tie to Florida.
Yeah.
We don't know what that is yet, but definitely people will be looking at that. So all 5 soldiers shot at Fort Stewart, we are told, are going to make it. 3 have had surgery. 2 have had surgery, rather. Nope, 3 of the 5, let me correct that, have had surgery. 2 at a level 1 trauma unit, which made us a little nervous this afternoon because we were concerned if they might be in critical condition, but we're told they're stable and they're going to make it. All their families know. The alleged shooter is in custody, active duty at Fort Stewart, had his own personal gun. So I believe I can toss it over now to Anthony Austin. He's been preparing some information for us as well. And some good news from this news conference, Anthony.
Some good news indeed, Jeannie and Ken. It's good to hear that the 5 soldiers who were shot will recover. And we want to take a look now at some video we've been receiving into our newsroom this afternoon. We have a new look at some of the aftermath of the Fort Stewart shooting. This video into our newsroom just moments ago. The video posted to TikTok showing soldiers moving through the base under lockdown. And new video showing military police with guns drawn outside Fort Stewart. You can see them standing outside a police SUV at one of the gate entrances to the base. And let's take a closer look at how today's events unfolded. At 10:56 this morning, local time, law enforcement was dispatched for a possible shooting in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team area. By 11:04, the area was put on lockdown, including several schools just outside the base who locked down out of an abundance of caution. Emergency crews arrived and were treating the injured soldiers at 11:09, and then by 11:35, the shooter was arrested. That's 39 minutes after officials were sent to the scene. And Fort Stewart lifted the lockdown of the main area around 12:10. So right now we're hearing the moments that dispatchers in the Fort Stewart area were told about the shooting. So you're about to listen to a series of 3 first responder dispatch calls, all within a 90-second period. So let's take a listen right now.
Mag Station 1, mutual aid request for a gunshot wound on Fort Stewart. It'll be building 8422nd Brigade, 8422nd Brigade, gunshot wound, mutual aid. There's possibly 5 patients. They have both of their EMS trucks on scene. The scene is clear. Everything is secure. We don't know who has what. Multiple people injured. I am landline with Fort Stewart on the 911 call. They have an active shooter on Fort Stewart.
So we have some more video now. This is showing more of the aftermath of the Fort Stewart shooting. It's kind of hard to hear what they're saying in this video, but a police officer is warning people to stay in their cars. Areas of Fort Stewart, that's near Savannah, just to let you know if you're just now joining us. That's about a little over 2 hours from where we are here in Jacksonville. They were put on lockdown for some time. The commander telling people to stay inside, lock their doors and windows until the suspect was in custody. And we're also hearing from a former FBI special agent in charge, Richard Frankel, on the Fort Stewart shooting in Georgia, and also the response time. That we're having some audio issues there. So that was the FBI agent who was in charge. I believe we can listen to it now. So let's go ahead and go back and listen to what he had to say. It appears we are still having issues with that soundbite. We're going to get that fixed, make sure it works, and then we'll bring that to you a little later. We do have an interview, I should say, some sound with a former NYPD detective. His name is Robert Boyce, and he's going to talk a little bit about the Fort Stewart shooting.
Part of these investigations, Jay, is to see the after action. It comes later on, and the critique of the events. Could we have seen this coming? Is it anywhere possible? And how can we prepare better? You got to remember, these are special people. These are the people who defend our nation, both here and abroad. And so they're specially trained and exposed to things that nobody else has. So they really have to be treated differently. This is unlike a civilian operation here. You're on government land. You have security issues there. Where was there failures in this? Failures to see this, failures to see where the gun came from. And right now, it's by 5 compared to the Fort Hood.
Go to a retired 4-star general now who visited Fort Stewart just 2 weeks ago. He was also the division commander at this base from 2011 to 2013. He spoke about where the shooting happened. Once again, this happened in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team area, which he says someone removed from the main base. Let's listen to more about what he said.
That's right. So inside this little compound for the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team, there's barracks facilities, there's headquarters facilities, motor pools, a gymnasium, a dining facility, a small medical clinic, but there's no schools, there's no family housing, there's none of those other things. That's all on the main cantonment area. This particular compound was built in the late 2000s as part of the expansion of the Army. It was completed and delivered to the Army in June of 2011. I know that because I was there when we received it and the first unit moved into the facility.
All right, so if you're just now joining us, we did just have a news conference not too long ago from Fort Stewart. They updated us that the suspect in the shooting at Fort Stewart that injured 5 soldiers has been identified as a male Army sergeant. His name is Cornelius Rafford. The good news in all of this, the 5 soldiers who were shot, we've been told that they were co-workers of Radford, but they will recover from their injuries. So that's the good news. No deaths have been reported in this tragic situation at Fort Stewart. I want to send things now back over to my co-anchor, Heather Crawford, along with our crime and safety analyst, Ken Jefferson.
All right, Anthony, thank you so much. And we're going to check in with Ken in just a moment. But our Zach Wilcox is there at Fort Stewart. He was at that press briefing just a minute ago. As we've been reporting, NBC News is saying that top law enforcement officials saying that this suspect, this sergeant based there at Fort Stewart, has ties to Florida. Is it ties to Jacksonville? We're trying to work to our sources to get information on that. But let's go now out to Fort Stewart, Georgia, where Zach Wilcox is standing by with the new information that we just heard from the Brigadier General. Zach?
Yeah, Heather, and hopefully we'll have some of those questions answered here as we work our way through the day. I did ask after the briefing if Sergeant Bradford, the suspected shooter here, had any injuries from the shooting or being taken into custody, and a lieutenant colonel mentioned that as of right now, that's a bit unclear. So that's another question that we're trying to work out. We do know that he's cooperating at this point, answering questions, so just don't know if he's injured. I'm going to step out of the way here so that we can show the front gate. We're a little bit closer. We're right behind the front sign. The front gate reopened right after 2 o'clock, or maybe right before 2 o'clock. So cars have been working their way, and actually we're seeing more and more working their way out at this point. And earlier, Jeannie asked me where this shooting happened in relation to where we are staged, the media here. So this is the front gate, really the most southern tip of the base. And at the very north right end, the northeastern end, if you will, is where the shooting actually happened at an annex. And I actually talked with one of their public affairs officers who mentioned that you have to go straight through the base, all the way through the town center area, all the way to the other end, almost leave the base and then come back in to get to that annex. It would be about a 10-minute long drive, he said, about 5 to 6 miles, which just goes to show the sheer size of this base to get over to that other end. So we're really nowhere near where the shooting actually happened here at the front gate. We know that all of the gates reopen right around 2 o'clock. So it seems like a lot of folks who work at the base are able to kind of get about their day now at this point. But as you mentioned, still a lot of questions that we're trying to answer. But really the thing that we're going to lean into is that we found out from that Commander General that of the 5 that are injured, they're all expected to be okay. Their families are aware of their situation. We know that 3 did have to require some sort of surgery, but they're expected to recover as well. So that is certainly good news, as Anthony mentioned, for this tragic situation here. And we'll continue to bring you any updates we have from the base here as we're set up right at the front gate. At Fort Stewart, Zach Wilcox, First Coast News, on your side.
All right, Zach, thank you for that update. And I want to bring in now our crime and safety expert, Ken Jefferson. Thank you so much for sticking with us and for your expertise. As we just heard the commanding officer of the base say that this is the accused suspect who is in police custody is a sergeant, and that this shooting happened in his workplace. And that he had not been to a combat zone. Mental health obviously is a question that we have. Was he having a mental health crisis? What led to this point? But the fact that he worked there where he opened fire, just weigh in on that.
You know, workplace violence is not something unusual or strange. It happens all the time. Usually it could be domestic violence in the workplace. It could be active shooter. It can be a number of things. You know, was he upset with his superior? Was he upset with his coworker, one person, and it led to him shooting 5? You know, those are questions that have going to have to be answered as we dig deeper into what he's all about. He's a sergeant in the United States Army. He's working with other soldiers, and for some reason, he just opened fires. He opened fires. Does he have mental issues? Did he have anxiety issues? We don't know. We don't know. We just got to wait.
We do know that he has not served in a combat zone, according to the Brigadier General who was giving us the update. And the question was asked, did he use his military weapon? And the response was no. We believe that he used a personal handgun.
Yeah, and I could tell by the tone from the general when he said that he was not pleased with that, simply because he even said, we're going to find out how he managed to get a personal weapon into the workplace. So, you know, he's a soldier, so he's coming through the gate. They're not going to tell him to get out of the car and hold your hands up so he can frisk you. He can almost smuggle anything he wants it through the gate. Once he's through the gate, I don't know if there are any precautions leading into the workplace that would detect that he has a weapon or whatever. He could have possibly left it in the car if he had to go through some type of scanning device and ran out to the car and got it quickly before it could be detected. We don't know. It's still a lot of questions that's unanswered there. But it's going to be interesting to see how this investigation develops and what comes out of it. The good thing is he's cooperating with law enforcement officials while he's being interrogated. And as I said earlier, Heather, he may want to just get it out of him. You know, he's committed this horrific act and he could have had immediate remorse. And now he just wants to get it out. Yeah, I did it. I'm responsible for it. I know I have to suffer the consequences for it, but let me get it out.
Now, we know that 5 soldiers were shot, but one of the things that stood out to me in that press conference is the fact that the Brigadier General said, if I heard him correctly, this sergeant's coworkers, once he opened fire, tackled him, and that's what led police to be able to quickly arrest him.
Yeah, and that stopped him from shooting other people as well. So those are your heroes right there. It'd be interesting to see if one of the ones or more than one of the ones that was shot actually tackled him, or was it others that was watching, saw the event unfold and then they tackled him. But those are your real heroes right there, because he would have killed more people or shot more people in this case than the 5 he did.
Yeah, it's you know, here we are. This all unfolded just before 11 o'clock this morning. As we approach the 4 o'clock hour, new details coming out, new information coming out. And I go back to what NBC is reporting is that this suspected shooter having ties to Florida. We are working our sources right now, trying to figure out where in Florida, what were the ties? Is he from this area? Does he live here? We know he was stationed there at Fort Stewart, and he has the rank of a sergeant. So a leader in the military today accused of opening fire on his own coworkers. I mean, it's a shocking situation.
Yeah, and once we confirm what his ties were to Jacksonville, we can delve into him just a little bit more.
Right.
As far as his background is concerned. You know, right now we don't know if he was stationed here, if he lived here, does he have family here, did he work here in a non-military capacity of some sort. But if it's confirmed that he does have ties to Jacksonville, then that's another whole story that we'll be talking about.
And I guess when you look at the good news of what happened here today is that you believe that the police response was right as it should have been, that they quickly got to the scene, quickly put that base on lockdown, got the injured treated, and it went by the books today.
Everybody was right on point, right on point. They have the multi-agency agreement for things like this, where your outside law enforcement is going to come in and help. And as I said earlier, you've got thousands of military personnel there.
Right.
You can best believe that an alert went out, put everybody on alert, that we've got an active shooter in our midst. We need all hands on deck, and he was not going to get off that base.
That's right. And he did not. He is in police custody. We are going to return you to regular programming for those of you who are watching us on First Coast News. However, our live coverage will continue right now on First Coast News Plus. It's our streaming platform available on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. And then we'll be back here on First Coast News tonight for First Coast News at 5. But again, 5 soldiers recovering right now after being shot, according to the Brigadier General, by their co-worker, a sergeant stationed at Fort Stewart. Our continuing coverage continues right now on First Coast News Plus.
This has been a First Coast News on your side special report. First Coast News is always on. Stream now on First Coast News Plus.
And thank you for staying with us for First Coast News Plus. I'm Heather Crawford, joined by our crime and safety expert Ken Jefferson is with us. He's been with us all day long, and my co-anchor Anthony Austin, as we're continuing to follow the developing story. An active shooter now in police custody after the Brigadier General and police telling us that he shot and injured 5 soldiers, 5 of his co-workers this morning at Fort Stewart. Okay, my producer's talking in my ear and telling me to send it over to Anthony Austin, who's going to continue now. Anthony.
That's right. So Heather, as you just mentioned, we do have our Christina Burgess, who has arrived there in Georgia. She's standing outside one of the hospitals where we understand those soldiers were taken. Once again, Christina, the good news this evening, those soldiers will recover.
Yes, Anthony, that's right. 2 out of the 5 soldiers who were wounded on Fort Stewart's military base were brought right here to Memorial University Medical Center. Now, it is the level 1 trauma center located here in Savannah, Georgia. And by being a level 1 trauma center, that means that they are equipped to provide the highest level of trauma care. It is also one that is located in between Charleston, Jacksonville, and Macon. Now, around 3 p.m. today, Dr. William Bromberg came out and he spoke with the media, and he provided updates in regards to the work that the staff does inside. Now, again, with this being a level 1 trauma center, he says that they are equipped to act fast and quickly.
All right, so Christina there once again giving us an update from the hospital. All of those soldiers, they will recover.
That is right. And we are just getting more information about the shooting at Fort Stewart. And we have a graphic. If we can pull this up, I want to verify the details that we have at this hour. Here is what we know. 5 soldiers have been shot. This happened when the first gunfire erupted just before 11 o'clock this morning on the base at Fort Stewart, Georgia. This is about 40 miles away from Savannah. 5 soldiers have been shot. We know that 2 of them were taken to the trauma center in an ambulance. All 5 expected to survive, according to the Brigadier General. And this all happened on the base. It happened in the accused shooter's workplace, and that shooter was arrested. We heard the commanding base officer say that he was tackled by his co-workers, allowing police to quickly take him into custody. Now, what is, okay, we're going to work on updating the rest of that graphic. But right now, that shooter is talking to police. being questioned. And Anthony, I mean, I think when you hear about something like this happening, this is in a secured facility on a military base, not too far from Jacksonville, just a couple of hours away. It just resonates and it hits close to home thinking about, what unfolded today. And the good news is he's been arrested and those soldiers, we understand, are going to be okay.
And the gun that he used during all of this, we found out during the news conference, this was actually his own personal weapon. This was not a military weapon that he used to commit this shooting. So there's a lot of questions right now. How did he get his personal weapon on base? I know Jeannie and Ken, they were talking earlier about this. He is a soldier. He was employed there. That's not someone you would probably usually pat down in a situation like this. So I'm not sure if they were aware that he had his personal weapon with him. But once again, this was not used with a military weapon. This was his own gun that he used to shoot 5 of his co-workers, 5 of his fellow soldiers. So some information that we've been getting. If you were listening to the news conference, you heard someone ask, was he from Jacksonville, Florida? Because we're hearing that he has ties here to Florida. That has not been confirmed yet, but we know his name is Cornelius Rafford. He is an Army sergeant there at Fort Stewart. Once again, he's accused of opening fire on the base before noon today, where his place of work on base when he opened fire, once again, was where he was working there. This particular spot on the base, we're kind of told, is kind of far removed there from the main campus. But we're trying to get some more information about why this happened. Why did he do this? We don't know why just yet.
Yeah, and we want to bring in our crime and safety expert, Ken Jefferson, who's been providing phenomenal insight for us today. Ken, one of the things that we learned in that press conference today is that this alleged suspect had been previously arrested for a DUI. We believe that happened there in Liberty County, Georgia, and that the commanding chain, his bosses, his superiors, were not aware of that until after the shooting unfolded today. Do you make anything of that?
Well, without a deep speculation, if he's previously been arrested for DUI not very long ago, that may be a continuation of issues that he may have had. He may have been drinking, drowning in his sorrows or whatever. I'm not saying it is, but that could be a part of him snapping today. So it could be an ongoing effort for him to try to get out of whatever he's in or whatever type of issues that he was having. And he just got to his last straw and pulled out his weapon and started firing that weapon.
And we heard a reporter ask at the briefing just a few minutes ago, did he have any behavioral issues? Was he known to have behavioral problems? And the Brigadier General said no.
And those are the puzzles that need to be puzzle pieces that need to be put together, because from the surface, it sounds like he had it all together. Kind of similar to the shooter at the FSU campus. It seems that he had it all together, and all of a sudden he just did what he did. But I would put a needle on the DUI, the recent DUI that he had. He may have been depressed. He may have been having some personal issues that he was trying to figure out or trying to go through. The fact that he didn't report it, which he's required to do, report it to his command that he gotten arrested for DUI, speaks volumes as well. Because obviously, in my opinion, he's going through something, and he's compartmentalizing it, and it came out today.
Right, because we know he was a logistics sergeant, and he's never seen active combat.
Right.
Because I know some people might be asking maybe if this was a situation of PTSD, maybe he had been through something recently, but we know that he's not seen active combat.
So the general made that statement to kind of end that speculation that it's possibly PTSD. I think that's why he made that point. Otherwise, it was no need to make the point that he had never been in combat. So I like the way the general conducted the news conference, because he gave out as much information as he could. He answered a couple of questions that we didn't have. And now everybody's scurrying, getting information, getting his background information, getting family information, looking on social media. Before the general released all of this information, trust and believe they've already done that.
Right.
They're not going to let us get ahead of them. They've already done that. Once they identified him, that's when the wheels started to roll with them doing all of their things. And not only that, my last point, he was a logistics sergeant, which means that he had to be focused all the time on the task at hand. And with him being a supervisor or a sergeant, he had to make sure his people were focused and on task all the time as well for that particular type of job.
And Ken, just kind of walk us through, now that he's in custody, now that the lockdown has been lifted, where does the investigation go from here?
So all the things that we've been talking about, they're going to talk to family, friends, neighbors, co-workers. They're going to dig deep and deep and deep into his background. They're on the way to Jacksonville, or they're in contact with someone here in Jacksonville looking at that aspect of it. You know, you want to make sure that there hadn't been another crime committed here in Jacksonville, and this is the finalization of his spree, if that was the case. But they look into all of those things. So the investigation goes forward from there. Now you've got an active crime scene that's still there. I'm certain it's still roped off because they've got to collect and preserve all the evidence, all of the shell casings, and they know what type of weapon he used, because they said it was his personal weapon. So they have to put all that stuff together. Even though it looks like it's open and shut, you still have to dot your I's and cross your T's and do every single thing that you would if he was at large.
And we're working right now to confirm where in Florida he had ties to. NBC reporting that he had prior ties to Florida. So we're trying to track down where, if he was living in this area, and we're hoping to have more information just as soon as we get that. We're also hearing right now from a retired 4-star general who visited Fort Stewart, where this happened just 2 weeks ago. He was also the division commander at this base from 2011 to 2013. And he spoke about where this shooting happened this morning. It was in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team area, which he says is somewhat removed from the main base.
That's right. So inside this little compound for the 2nd Armored Brigade Tomcat Team, there's barracks facilities, there's headquarters facilities, motor pools, a gymnasium, a dining facility, a small medical clinic, but there's no schools, there's no family housing, there's none of those other things. That's all on the main cantonment area. This particular compound was built in the late 2000s as part of the expansion of the Army. It was completed and delivered to the Army in June of 2011. I know that because I was there when we received it and the first unit moved into the facility.
And so, Ken, will military police be handling the bulk of this investigation? Do you know for sure? Do you think they'll turn it to an outside agency there in the?
They're not going to give it to an outside agency.
Yeah,
it's going to be federally investigated by the feds. The outside agencies that participated, the main thing that they have to do is write what we call a supplement report that outlines their actions, what they did when they got there, what time they got the call, what time they arrived, what did they do once they got there, such as being on the ground searching for the suspect or handcuffing him or bringing him in, whatever they did. But because it's the federal government jurisdiction, they'll be the ones that will be handling the the primary lead on the investigation.
Right.
And I imagine in the days to come, in the hours to come, we're going to hear more about those heroes on the base, serving our country and yet jumping into action, according to Brigadier General John Lubis, who said without hesitation, they immediately tackled that sergeant and subdued him so he could be taken into custody.
They saved lives because he had a hot weapon, and we don't know what kind it was. They don't know how many rounds he had, but he could have, I'm certain he had more than 5.
Right.
He had more than 5. So they stopped him from going out and shooting and injuring or killing others by their actions.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
We are glad to hear about that. We want to go to Zach Wilcox now. He just arrived at Fort Stewart not too long ago. Zach, just kind of tell us where you are right now and what you're seeing at this hour.
Yeah, Anthony, we're at the front gate, which is really the farthest portion of the base away from where the shooting actually happened, but this is where they staged us to talk with the Commander General. So I'll step out of the way so we can just take a look at what the front gate looks like at this point. No flashing lights or anything. In fact, when we got here, I was kind of surprised not to see any kind of scene, but perhaps it's because we're so far removed from where the shooting actually happened. One of the public affairs officers mentioned it could actually be about 5-6 miles from here at the farthest other end of the base. So, but you can see some cars working their way in. We've seen some officers or some folks in their uniforms just outside here at the visitor center as well. A lot of cars now starting to make their way out. But as you mentioned, we got a ton of more information here within the last hour or so that we didn't have before, and a lot of unanswered questions still. They did mention that they have spoken with the suspect, but they mentioned that he used what they believe to be a personal gun, and they were very clear, the Commander General was, that this was not any kind of training exercise that was going on. They have no reason to believe that this was part of training in any capacity. We do know that it involved his coworkers and that it was some other members of or people who were on the base that were able to tackle the shooter, get him under control. And we know that those 5 who were injured, 3 of them required some sort of surgery to address their injuries, but all 5 are expected to be okay. So now around 2 o'clock is when they reopened the front gate here, and the rest of the gates, they kind of lifted that lockdown. And we saw a lot of traffic initially trying to get back onto the base because this is such a big base, a busy base. So we're really being shut down for about 3 hours there. Certainly held a lot of people up that were trying to get on there. So now they're able to get back to it. And I also want to mention that on our way up here, we passed by a couple of schools. Liberty County Schools had a soft lockdown during this. So when we passed through, we saw that they were doing dismissal, and it seemed to be operation as usual for the 2 schools. We passed a middle school and an elementary school as well that seemed to be back. They had lifted their soft lockdown and they were letting kids out of school. Obviously, first week of school, so already kind of a hectic time for a lot of families. Then you add that on top of all of this. But again, the thing that we're really focusing on here is that all 5 of the injured soldiers are expected to be okay. And the other thing that we're looking into is if this suspected shooter had any possible connections to Jacksonville, and that's, or Florida in general. And that's the thing that the Commander General also mentioned that they are looking into at this point as they try and speak with him and try and piece all of this together. The other thing that was brought up is security for the base. He mentioned that they have armed guards here at the front gate, checking people, making sure that they're going where they need to go, and if they're making sure that they have the proper authorization to get on the base. So that's the thing that they're really looking at, is how a believed personal weapon was able to get through security and get on the base. So a lot of things that they're looking into right now, and a lot of things that we're trying to clear up as well. But again, the 5 people who were injured are all expected to be okay, and that is the biggest development here within the past hour or so. At Fort Stewart, Zach Wilcox, First Coast News, on your side.
All right, Zach, thanks for that live update from Fort Stewart. So we want to verify some information as we continue to learn information about this shooting that unfolded just before 11 o'clock today at Fort Stewart in Georgia. Here are some additional details that we can verify at this hour. The Army identifying the suspect as Army Sergeant Cornelius Radford. We're told that he does have ties to Florida. We're working right now to learn if any ties are to Jacksonville or to the First Coast area. We can verify 5 soldiers have been shot. It all happened this morning. The Army confirms all 5 are now stable. And that brings us to what is false. None of the victims have been identified at this time publicly. We do understand that their next of kin have been notified. However, the military has not released the victims' names. Now, during the Army's press briefing at 3:30, just a little under an hour ago, about 45 minutes ago, they confirmed that they would not release the names of the victims right now. But we do know they are all co-workers of the suspect. And right now, the big question is, what is the motive? What led this shooter to open fire on a base this morning? And we do not know his motive, but we know that police, that the military, lots of people right now working to try to lead up, figure out what led up to today's events, and figure out the motive so that something like this can be prevented from ever happening again.
So what's happening right now, and they might be beyond this right now, as Ken mentioned, of course, they have probably more information than we know right now, but we know the Army's Criminal Investigation Department is interviewing Cornelius Radford. That's the soldier who's been the sergeant who's been identified as the shooter, and he is in custody right now, awaiting criminal charges under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So we don't have a lot of other information right now, but we do know, once again, the 5 soldiers who were shot, they will all recover. 3 of the 5 needed surgery, and 2 were taken to a hospital in Savannah. But once again, they are all expected to be okay.
And Ken, I mean, just such good news that they are going to be okay, because this, as we've seen with lots of other mass shootings that I've covered, could have ended a lot differently.
That's the best thing that could have happened out of this whole situation. And who knows, we'll learn more about how they tussled the suspect and tackled him and held him until police arrived to execute the arrest. I mean, he could have had the gun and while they were tussling and still shooting around, but That's the best news out of this whole thing. If you can get anything good out of it, no one died, and they're all expected to recover fully.
And you know, when you talk about a mass shooting on a military base, it raises the questions about base security. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, usually the bases are the most secured areas that you can enter, particularly as a civilian.
Right.
But this is an unusual case. This was a soldier. This was a guy that worked there. He was probably in uniform, or if he wasn't, maybe the guards knew him. But they know he's military because he's got a sticker on his car when he goes to the gate, and they'll salute him as he comes through there. But it still raises the question, like the general said, he had a personal weapon, and he's got to find out how that weapon made it into the workspace, to the workplace.
Right, because they're not allowed to bring their own personal weapons on base at all.
You've got hundreds of thousands of weapons on a military base, and you don't need a personal.
You don't need
weapon
your personal.
there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of speculation now, but why would he use his personal weapon? Would he have access to a military weapon? I guess we really don't.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My guess would be it would be too obvious if he was going to get a rifle or a pistol, because he's probably have to check it out from somewhere. And the questions would be, why would you need this and this, that, and the other? So it's the easiest thing, and I'm speculating, the easiest thing would be to do is to smuggle his own personal weapon in there and use that.
And you know, when we talk about the suspect, it's not just a soldier, a leader in the military, a sergeant who had climbed up the ranks, making it to this position of sergeant. And the brigadier general saying just a little while ago that this happened in his workplace involving his coworkers.
Yeah, he was a leader. He was a supervisor, if you will, on civilian terms. He had subordinates, obviously, and they probably didn't think anything. If he pulled the weapon out and they saw it, they probably didn't think anything until he started shooting. But yeah, you don't expect that sort of thing to come. You know, we hold certain people in certain positions higher.
We do.
And that's one of the positions, a military sergeant serving our country to protect us, me and you. And he pulls out a weapon and he starts to shoot his coworkers. You never suspect that sort of thing.
You never suspect that. I'm sure when they went to work today, they did not think that this was going to happen.
No.
We want to hear from a retired 4-star general now with ties to Fort Stewart. He's going to describe the differences between units in the U.S. military, especially in the Army and combat units.
You know, we have 10 active duty combat divisions in the United States Army. The 3rd Infantry Division is one of those. Secondly, it is a armored division. The name is 3rd Infantry Division to pay respect to its historical legacy, but it is, for all intents and purposes, an armored division with 2 armor brigade combat teams with about 4,000 soldiers equipped with M1A2 Abrams tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, Paladin 155 millimeter howitzer guns, and all of the support vehicles that go along with it. The 3rd Infantry, this particular division, earned its name and fame as the Rock of the Marne in going back to World War I. Right after it was stood up, it deployed to France and then stood and under intense German pressure, and that's where they earned their moniker, Rock of the Marne, because they stood like a rock on the Marne River against 5 attacking German divisions. The same division participated in all 5 campaigns in the European theater of operations in World War II, deployed units to Korea, had elements in Vietnam. And then, of course, probably most famously, the 3rd Infantry Division led the spearhead attack of U.S. Army Central Command, Army Central, in 2003, the attack into Baghdad, right? So everybody remembers that lightning fast attack. And then the Thunder Run, the famous Thunder Run in Baghdad, that was all 3rd Infantry Division. That's the list, the history and the legacy. That's this unit. They are the armored fist, or a portion of the armored fist for the Army's Armored Corps.
So that was a general that we were listening to just kind of talk about the differences between when it comes to combat in the U.S. military and also the Army units as well. So once again, the suspect in all of this has been identified as Sergeant Cornelius Radford. NBC right now is actually reporting that he is from Jacksonville, but we're working to confirm that for ourselves and that he actually joined the Army in January of 2018. But once again, that's just from NBC. We're trying to gather our own information right now to confirm all of that. The 28-year-old is listed as an automated logistical specialist assigned to the 2nd Brigade Combat Team there at Fort Stewart. And as we've been mentioning, he had no deployments.
Right, and I can tell you the databases that I've been looking at, there is someone with that same name, with an address listed here in Jacksonville. We've not independently confirmed that he lived here or that he was from Jacksonville, but that is what we have been hearing. And I want to bring back in our crime and safety expert, Ken Jefferson. And Ken, after the shooter was apprehended, you said that in a situation like this, the immediate threat is mitigated. However, I imagine police are going to everywhere where he had lived, his family's home, because you don't know in situations like this, could there be another threat that he left behind somewhere else?
Yeah, they're always going to check that. They're always going to, even though you've got a warm body in custody, you got to look all around just to make sure there are no accomplices, make sure there are no booby traps where you found him, no booby traps where he lived. You're going to talk to everybody that's affiliated with this guy, neighbors, friends, family. Of course, they're going to go through all of his computers and things of that nature. They already know, they hadn't told us, what his ties are to Florida. We just don't know yet.
Right.
And the reason why they'll hold that close to the chest is because they want the press to allow them to do their jobs so that they won't interfere with it. And get information wrong and put it out there. So they'll keep a lot of information close to the chest for that matter. But yeah, they're doing their due diligence right now as we speak.
Right, because we don't know right now if he's cooperating during this investigation, if he's answering their questions, if they found out from him why he did this. But they're going to want to question everyone that he knows to see what was happening in the past day, the past week, the past month. That maybe would cause him to do something like this. Maybe was he talking to someone, possibly about carrying this out. They're trying to gather any information that they can.
Yeah, and it's a long process. It's a long process. And sometimes we as a public get a little impatient because we want information. We want to know why and how and all these things. But it's a long process because you have to understand in the judicial system, there are so many technicalities that you can lose a case on, even though it looks plain, clear, and obvious. There's so many technicalities that can come into play. And what you want to do is you want to plug up those holes where the technicalities live so that they won't become a part of the process. So we just have to be patient, let the authorities do their job with the interviews and interrogations, with the background checks, with the checks with the family members and friends and neighbors, and let it play out.
And so according to the commanding general there on the base, he was an automated logistical specialist who had risen up to the ranks of sergeant. And NBC News is reporting that he's 28 years old and that he joined the military back in 2018. So that means about 7 years ago, around the age of 21, from 21 to 28, he's been in the military. NBC News reporting he's from Jacksonville. I've not seen a lot of information about him now that his name has been released. Usually in situations like this, we see a flood of information. And I'm frankly kind of surprised, if he is in fact from Jacksonville, that we've heard very little about who he is and his background.
Well, he's 28 years old. He's young.
Right.
He's young. He's not like a 35, 40-year-old that's got a lot of information out there. So he's young. Again, who knows what he's going through or what he went through leading up to this thing. Who knows what his ties are or was to Jacksonville, if it's confirmed for sure that he's from Jacksonville. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we know that he was arrested locally there in Liberty County for alleged drinking while driving, but his commanding officers, they didn't know about the incident, according to officials there. So it kind of makes you wonder, did someone maybe say something about that maybe that got brought up or what? But we know he was going through something.
Well, they probably found out when they started doing background on him. You know, nobody had to say anything. Once they recognized and identified him, they probably found that out. But just like in law enforcement, if you're a law enforcement officer, and it's similar to the military, and you have an issue with law enforcement, such as a DWI, DUI, you're required the following day, within 24 hours of returning to work, to report that information to your commanding officer or to your superior. He failed to do that, so he obviously intentionally withheld that because it didn't just happen yesterday. He didn't have an opportunity to say anything about it. So he obviously is he was obviously trying to hide whatever issues that he may have been going through at that particular time. And this was basically just the ultimate. He may have been spiraling.
Right.
We don't know. He may have been spiraling out of control, and until it got to this point where he just said, "The heck with it. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this
Right.
horrific act." We don't know yet.
Yeah, and I know our reporters have been looking through documents trying to see if we can find the DUI records. And it appears it may have happened in the past month or so, maybe even 2 months ago. So we're still trying to figure out exactly when that happened.
Yeah, so you're looking at video earlier from Fort Stewart, where the lockdown, as of now, has been completely lifted. And for those of you who are just joining us, I kind of want to walk you through a timeline of how this mass shooting unfolded today at Fort Stewart, Georgia, about 45 miles from Savannah, Georgia. It was around 10:56 this morning when police got the initial reports of a possible shooting on that Army base. Then at 11:04, the base was put on a full lockdown. At 11:09, 5 minutes later, emergency medical teams got there to treat the wounded soldiers. We know 5 soldiers have been wounded. And then at 11:35, the suspected gunman is apprehended. However, we heard the commanding general say that the people, as soon as they saw the shooting start, they tackled the suspected shooter. So I'm not sure on the timeline there, but according to this timeline, that's when he was apprehended. At 12:10, the lockdown was lifted for the main area. And at 12:45, 3 Liberty County schools entered a soft lockdown just out of an abundance of caution. And then it was around 1:30 this afternoon that the shooter was identified as a male soldier. We now know that shooter, identified as a sergeant, that they say opened fire in his workplace on his co-workers. NBC News reporting that this sergeant is believed to be from Jacksonville.
And I'm just looking right now, Heather, and we just got confirmation actually from Liberty County from a lieutenant there that Mr. Rafford was indeed arrested and charged by the Georgia State Patrol on May 18th of this year.
Okay, and his commanding chain did not know about this DUI. So we know in May, arrested for a DUI.
Yeah, 2.5 months later. And he knows the protocol that you must report that, because he would have received some type of disciplinary punishment as a result of that twice. One for the actual act itself, if he was convicted of it, and 2 for not reporting it. So again, like I said, that could be a link to what happened today. He could have been spiraling out of control, and he could have been drinking, trying to, drowning in his sorrows, if you will. And it just led up to this. We don't know yet, and I'm speculating, but we'll see.
We are working to get his mugshot. We should have that any moment now, and we'll share that with you when we do receive it. We know that he has been taken into custody. Police working to learn the motive. Maybe they know it, maybe they don't. They have not released any motive publicly at this point. And I think that's the question everybody wants to know. Why and what could have been done to prevent something
Well, they'll
like
hold another news conference once they find that out, and they want to share it. They may know it, like you said, they may know it right now, but they're not just going to spontaneously utter it and say, hey, okay, here's the reason why he did that. Let's continue the investigation. They'll hold a news conference because they don't want to just give out one piece of information. They want to be able to have the investigation progress to a certain point and then release more information. So as the investigation continues, we have to pack our patience and let them do it.
Yeah. And we want to know that producer, say that again for us. The mugshot will be from his previous arrest, not
DUI.
today, not what happened today. And so just mentioning that's all we know about him as far as anything that happened that was kind of out of character, because he had no disciplinary issues within the military. As far as we know, they had never had any issues or any mental health concerns about him. So this is just the only thing we know about him when we're trying to look for a motive. Sometimes you might hear when it comes to people who commit things like this, well, someone had noticed that they had issues in the past where they, kind of showed signs of aggressiveness or had some kind of mental health concerns. But as far as we know about this guy, we don't have a lot of information about him having any previous problems.
And this is his mugshot from his DUI arrest in Liberty County. That's where Fort Stewart is. Cornelius Radford, a sergeant with the Army, 28 years old. This is the mugshot when he was arrested back in May. We have now confirmed that. We understand, according to NBC News, they're reporting that he is from Jacksonville. We don't have that independently confirmed outside of NBC News, but we're working to get more information on that. But you're looking at the picture of the suspected shooter at Fort Stewart, Cornelius Radford. This is his mugshot from May. Now, today, we understand that his coworkers tackled him and held him while police were able to get on the scene and quickly take him into custody. We don't know, Ken, we haven't heard if he was injured or any details on that as far as that goes, right?
As far as that goes, we have not, but there has not also been a report that he was transported to the hospital prior to being arrested. So that's usually indicated that he may be okay, didn't have to be transported. But the whole thing to me is ironic that he had no prior disciplinary issues. He had no prior anything that was negative in his file that we know of. And for this sort of thing to happen just kind of spontaneous, it just baffles me.
And this is actually not the first serious shooting incident to happen at Fort Stewart. According to NBC, an Army sergeant was actually killed at Fort Stewart back in 2022. So that's just, 3 years ago. Sergeant Nathan Hillman, he was a 30-year-old from Pennsylvania and an Afghan veteran. He died during a shooting on December 12th at Fort Stewart. Specialist Shay Wilson is facing a murder charge, and his case is still pending. So you would kind of think maybe after that happened, maybe they have more protocols in place when it comes to this. I don't know quite the details of this previous shooting yet, but unfortunately, this is not the first time something like this has happened.
It's not the first time, and you really can't predict when it's going to happen.
You can't.
You can only just prepare to react because you don't know when it's going to happen. If you knew when it's going to happen, you can stop it. You be proactive and you can stop it. A question was raised earlier. How can you stop it? You can't stop it. You can't stop it because you don't know. You just don't know, and it's just unfortunate. It happens to be at the same base, And this will be a sounding alarm for all bases all over the United States now as a result of this. Especially when they said that he brought in a personal weapon, so you can expect some protocols to change and some affidavits to be signed and all this kind of stuff to happen as a result of this.
Ken, whenever we have a mass shooting, it always causes us to kind of step back and reflect. What are the lessons learned? Obviously, this just happened just a few hours ago, but you served in law enforcement for many, many years. When it comes to warning signs, and we hear the FBI and police say all the time, if you see something, say something. And so often in mass shootings, you talk to people and say, well, so-and-so said this. I didn't take anything seriously.
Right.
As a law enforcement expert, what are warning signs? Because like you said, it can happen anywhere. And as you're answering this question, this is a live look from our crew there outside of the trauma center where some of the soldiers are recovering. But as far as warning signs go, what can we learn? What should we be on the lookout for?
Heather, you kind of hit it early when we were interviewing a little bit earlier when you say you have to be cognizant of your surroundings as well as people that surround you. And that's not being paranoid. That's just being cognizant and aware of things that's going on around you, because Anthony and I could be close, but I can notice a sudden change in him, in his behavior, in the way he acts, in the way he's talking, things that he's doing. It might raise my suspicion that something may be going on with him. I should tell somebody about that, especially in the climate that we're living now, because I don't want Anthony to snap, particularly on me. So we should tell somebody that you might want to just notice what I'm noticing with Anthony and maybe approach a conversation with him just to see if there's anything there. It's sometimes hard to tell. It's sometimes hard to see the signs that's there. But if you notice any unusual behavior that you feel that's out of character, the climate that we're living in now, you need to say something to somebody so that, one, everybody be aware of it, and two, maybe there's something that can be done about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we hear stories, the aftermath of the stories. I mean, we just had a 14-year-old boy in our community accused of killing his own parents earlier in the week. And it's situations like that, and you stand back and you say, how? And why? And sometimes you don't know. If you say something, it could stop and prevent something.
And once again, 28 years old. He had been in the military for about 7 years, promoted to sergeant. So this is someone he had obviously showed signs of doing well in the military to receive a promotion like that. And it just raises questions. Why did this happen? I know that's something we keep saying over and over again, but of course, the investigators are trying to figure out all that information right now.
You know, it's going to be interesting once investigators talk to his coworkers, because they may reveal that there was something going on, but nobody said anything.
Right.
Or they said, well, we didn't see anything. We didn't notice any kind of behavior. So the co-worker is going to be the key. If Mr. Radford does not give a motive as to why he did that, the co-workers will be a key to that, whether or not they saw something, they detected something, or they sensed something that was going on with him. Did he confide with somebody that, he may have had some issues or some personal problems or whatever? All those things, investigators are going to be seeking out that information, whether from Radford or from his co-workers.
And I think a big question I have is, was this something that was premeditated? Was this something that was planned? Or was this a reaction to something that happened?
Well, I would say that it was kind of planned because he had a personal weapon.
He had a personal weapon.
He didn't just take it just to have it on him, because he don't need it on a military base. You got guns everywhere. You got military police there. You got civilian police there as well. So as far as protection, that's one of the safest places you can be. So he obviously, in my opinion, he took the weapon with the intent of using it, and he did.
Yeah. We are hearing from a delivery truck driver who recounts how really everything just stopped this morning as Fort Stewart went into lockdown. Take a listen to what he shared.
Yeah, I guess the best way to describe it, being a truck driver for the 30 years I've been, it was reminiscent of what happened after 9/11. I was on the road then, and the same thing happened. The whole world just went quiet. It shut down. Nobody knew what was going on. In the few minutes it took for me to get from the delivery to that north gate, where people who are stationed there would go to Savannah, and it was pretty active. There was a lot of people going out that gate, probably going to Savannah. Everything stopped. I was the first truck at that gate, and they just shut it down. And the people in the cars knew less than I did. I didn't know anything, neither did they. They just wouldn't let us out. And slowly they started turning them around. In an 18-wheeler, I couldn't do what they did, but I had to get out. They got mad that I got out of my truck. I couldn't figure out what to do. They had county law enforcement on the other side of the gate, base police on inside. But when I got out, they just told me to turn around. They had to stop the cars for me to turn around. I went back.
So that was a truck driver there who you heard was making a delivery on base when he was told to shelter in place because everything was going down. We've been mentioning this since this all happened, well, since the news conference, when we found out for sure that all those soldiers, the 5 who were shot, will recover. So everyone injured in today's shooting at the base expected to recover. The good news throughout all of this. And there was a press briefing at 3:30 this afternoon when we found that all out. Let's listen.
Soldiers in the area that witnessed the shooting immediately and without hesitation tackled the soldier, subdued him, that allowed law enforcement to then take him into custody. I'm very confident in the security of this installation. We've got a great partnership with local law enforcement. As you can see here at our gates, we have armed guards in protective equipment. This one's a bit difficult, and we're going to have to determine how he was able to get a handgun to his place of duty.
Big question there to answer. And right now we want to show you the mugshot of the suspect, Cornelius Radford. He is a sergeant with the Army, 28 years old, an automatic logistics specialist there on base at Fort Stewart. Now, this is his mugshot when he was arrested back in May in Liberty County, Georgia. That's where Fort Stewart is, charged with driving under the influence. Again, he's 28 years old. NBC News is reporting that he is from Jacksonville, Florida. We're working to get more details and to confirm that, but he has been with the Army since 2018. So probably around the age 21, 22, he joined the Army, made his way up to the rank of sergeant. And then today, for reasons we do not know, he allegedly opened fire in his workplace on his coworkers, and they tackled him, subdued him, and he survived. He is in custody right now, being questioned by police. Those 5 soldiers who were shot, who were injured, taken to the hospital. A couple of them have had to undergo surgery, but the commanding general saying it appears that all of them are going to survive and that all of their family members have been notified.
And we have 2 crews there at Fort Stewart. We have our Zach Wilcox. He's actually there on base, well, a little bit outside the base there at one of the entrances, continuing to gather information. Our Christina Burgess, she's actually at the hospital right now, gathering information there, trying to see if there's any family members outside or anyone that she can speak with to find out about more about the conditions of these soldiers who are there at the hospital. We know, once again, they're all stable at this time, but just to figure out exactly what's going on, we know some underwent surgery during the shooting. I don't know if it's possible, if we could go back out to Zach Wilcox. We will in just a moment. We're going to go back out to Zach, just kind of tell us what he's seeing there at the base right now.
Ken, you know, we have a lot of military bases here in Jacksonville, here in the First Coast area. When something like this happens, and there is an incident on a base, something of this magnitude, are security levels usually amplified at all bases following a tragedy like this?
Not only are they amplified, but they're looked at again and again and again just to see how they will respond if this actually happened on their base. You know, they practice and they train for these sort of things to happen, and they cooperate with local law enforcement just like we saw today. So they prepare for it. But again, I can't stress it enough. You never know when it's going to happen. You never know when it's going to happen.
And they said during the news conference, actually, that they are pretty confident with their security there on base. We heard him just say that. But once again, this is something we can't predict. This can happen anywhere. Unfortunately, this happened on a military base, somewhere you would think maybe it wouldn't happen, but this is something, once again, that could happen anywhere. So they were not prepared for something like this to happen.
And you know, outside of the 5 soldiers that were injured, the biggest concern of that brigadier general is how did that weapon get in the workplace?
Yes,
That's his biggest concern. And he probably feels like he's been let down by somebody or some unit for him being able to bring that weapon inside. So he's going to get to the bottom of it.
Right. But just like, once again, as we mentioned earlier, usually when you enter a base, especially if you're a fellow soldier, you either have a tag or you just show your ID and they let you through. You know, this is one of your coworkers there.
You don't suspect
anything.
As Anthony mentioned, we do have crews spread out. Christina Burgess is on the scene outside of, I believe she's outside of Memorial Health, the Trauma One Center, where some of the soldiers who were shot were taken today. And we heard from a trauma surgeon just a little bit ago talking about just the resources they have in place when someone is brought there with an urgent need to one of those level 1 trauma centers. Christina, describe the scene where you are right now.
Well, yeah, guys, I just want to show you the lay of the land and what it looks like out here. So to my left, this road right here is where we've been seeing lots of ambulance come in and go to this emergency room. So this is where these 2 soldiers who were wounded on Fort Stewart's base were taken, right here under that emergency room sign. So since we've been out here, we've been seeing lots of activity. We did arrive after these soldiers were brought here, but since we've been here, we've been seeing that activity because, like you said, Heather, this is a level 1 trauma center. It's one that's located between Charleston, Jacksonville, and Macon. So they receive lots of patients, including those 2 soldiers today. We did hear from Dr. William Bromberg here that with this being a level 1 trauma center, his staff is ready to act and act fast. As soon as a patient is en route, they receive that call, and that's when staff starts to get ready. And as soon as that patient comes through the doors, they're ready to get them and take them to the operating room and treat them as quickly as possible. Now, we do know that those 2 soldiers that left from Fort Stewart, they rode in an ambulance ride that lasted around 30 minutes. We know that Fort Stewart is a military base, and right here at this trauma center, it's also in a military community in Savannah. So Dr. Bromberg says that they do take not high priority, but it is very important for them to treat our military personnel in the best way that they can. We'll continue to bring you more updates and coverage here in Savannah, Georgia. Reporting live, Christina Burgess, First Coast News on your side.
All right, Christina, thank you. And when we heard that surgeon talking just a little while ago, he got emotional when asked about, is it different when you're treating members of our military? And he said, you treat everyone to the highest level of care, but when it's a soldier, when it's someone who has signed up to serve our country, it hits a little bit differently. And he got emotional, he got choked up, and saying that at that level 1 trauma center, within 2 to 5 minutes, they can have all the blood for them. And with under 15 minutes, they can have them on the operating table. So they have the resources there, getting them quick, urgent care, the best care they can to help them have a swift recovery.
And right now, we don't have the names confirmed of the soldiers who were injured during today's shooting. I know a lot of you might be wondering about that. Maybe if we know the shooter, from what we're learning, it appears that he has a Jacksonville address, but we don't know if any of the injured, if they might be from our area. So I know you might have that question. We are working to try to get that information, but the military has not released that to us just yet. All we know is that they're all said to be stable right now. they're all going to recover, and we know some had to go through surgery. But we are continuing to get more information about those who were shot during all of this.
Ken, speak to the investigation, to what's happening now. You've got this happening on a military base, but we know the FBI and local law enforcement all working collaboratively to try and figure out how this happened and what can do to prevent it. But this is an investigation that's going to take days, weeks, months.
So picture a duck on the top of the water. He's just gliding
right
underneath there. His legs
just
are moving
paddling
real
away.
fast.
Yeah.
That's what's going on here with this investigation. On the surface, it seems like it's just cut and dry, and we got this, we got that. But there's a lot of moving parts going on underneath the surface that they're doing. People are traveling. People are finding individuals that they need to talk to. Investigators are going all out to get as much information about Rafford as they can. They're talking to Rafford. Hopefully he's cooperating and he's giving them information, giving them the information that hopefully he's remorseful and he's just releasing all of this out of him to try to get closure on it for personal reasons or whatever. So all these things are going on simultaneously. It's a well-oiled machine based on what I've seen today, how they responded, how they reacted, how he was taken into custody so quick. And we'll wait and see what comes out of all of this.
Right, because as you mentioned earlier, this is a federal investigation.
Right.
So, there are going to be a lot of resources used to get to the bottom of this.
They will spare no expense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is a mugshot you're looking at. As we've been showing you, we got this just within the past few minutes. We have learned that he was previously arrested for driving under the influence there in Liberty County, Georgia, back in May. But what was interesting is the commanding general who was giving the press briefing at 3:30 this afternoon said his chain of command did not know he had been arrested for a DUI. If they had known that, I'm sure he would have faced disciplinary action, but he kept that hidden from them, and they apparently did not find out about it until after the shooting happened today, when they were looking into his past and what led up to this. And so did that play a role in any of this? We don't know the details, but he was arrested, and this is his mugshot. Obviously, it happened at his workplace, according to investigators.
Absolutely, and he wanted to hide it for a reason.
Yeah.
We don't know what that reason is, but he wanted to hide that information from his command for a reason. He wanted to hide the weapon that he smuggled in for a reason, and the reason we know now is to wreak havoc upon his co-workers. So he could be suffering from some type of anxiety or mental issues or whatever. All that'll come out because as Anthony said, they're not going to spare any expense with this investigation.
Right.
If they need to bring in psychologists or psychiatrists, professionals to come in to talk with him and try to get into his psyche and whatever, they're going to do that.
Right. And as soon as this all happened, we sent our Zach Wilcox up to Fort Stewart to gather more information for us. He's been out there for a while. Zach, just kind of tell us if you've learned anything new and just kind of what's happening there on the base.
Yeah, Anthony, I think I should start with the fact that you may see some flashing lights. You may hear some sirens behind me here, and that's because it appears there's been some sort of car accident right in front of the front gate to get onto Fort Stewart. So it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with the shooter situation from earlier, but in case you see that or hear that, I'll step out here because there's a long line of cars that are trying to make their way out, but the gate has been reopened. And since the gate was reopened, we went up to the visitor center just before you sent it out to talk to us here. And we talked with a couple of people who were checking in there. We talked with one woman who mentioned that she was she's on the base and she was stationed there earlier, and she spent several hours in lockdown inside. She doesn't necessarily work anywhere near where the shooting happened, but she talked about how scary it was to have that going on and not really know what exactly was happening other than knowing that there was some sort of shooter situation happening. So she was able to get off the base. She was going back on now, but relieved that she was finally able to continue with her day. We also talked with another man who mentioned he had no idea there was a shooting today. He was checking in to get a visitor badge, mentioned he did 15 years in the military, and talked about the fact that he actually intentionally left his gun at home because he did not want to be bringing a gun onto a military base because of how hard it is to get through the security process and so much explaining to do. So he was surprised to learn that it's believed that this was a personal gun that was used for the shooting because of how hard, in his experience, it's been to bring a personal gun onto a base. So was shocked to hear that there'd been a shooting here, mentioned that his wife had never been to a base, so he wanted to take her by just to give her a look and maybe spend the night on the base. and had no idea that there had been this shooting and that it had been locked down for hours. So it's certainly just coincidental that they drove up from Gainesville and just happened to be stopping by the base after all of this happened. But it was interesting to hear him talk about his own personal experience with trying to bring a personal handgun onto a base. And we know that is one thing that the Commander General rather mentioned that they're looking into, is how exactly this personal gun was able to make it onto the base to begin with before the shooting even happened. But just figured I'd give you a little lay of the land here as to what we're seeing here at the front gate. But again, this whole long line of cars, all the sirens, all the flashing lights seem to be for a car crash, not related to the shooting that happened here about 5 hours ago today. At Fort Stewart, Zach Wilcox, First Coast News on your side.
And Zach, I want to ask you a little bit about that. So I know you just mentioned this car accident. Since you've been there, how have they been getting people on and off base? Does it appear to be normal, or have they been have things been moving slowly? I don't know if you can really answer that question, but just what have you observed traffic-wise there?
Yeah, Anthony, when we first got here, it was about 10, 15 minutes after they lifted the lockdown and reopened the front gate. So there was a lineup of cars trying to get their way in. They just started matriculating in. So it seems like people were held up for about 3 hours today, that lockdown from around 11 until 2. I do want to point out that where we are is about as far away on the base as you can be from where the shooting actually happened. They have lifted all of those lockdowns now, but that one of the PAOs actually mentioned that to get to the gate where that happened, where the shooting happened, you have to almost go through this gate, out another one, and then re-enter the base. So it's kind of a complicated thing. 5-6 mile long drive takes about 10 minutes to get through, just the sheer size of this base. But when we first got here, there was a little bit of a line of cars trying to make their way in. Now we have this long line of cars trying to make their way out, as a lot of folks are ending what's been a very hectic day, especially with this car crash on top of everything else.
All right, Zach Wilcox live for us in Fort Stewart, Georgia, where just before 11 o'clock this morning, a sergeant, according to the commanding general, accused of opening fire in his workplace on his co-workers. The ramifications of that, 5 soldiers shot this morning. They have been taken to the hospital where they are recovering. They are expected to all recover, and that suspected alleged shooter is in police custody.
Right. A 28-year-old who was an automated logistical specialist, and he was assigned to the 2nd Brigade Combat Team there at Fort Stewart. He had no previous deployments there. So once again, our team continuing to gather information, including more information about his ties, possibly here to Jacksonville, to the state of Florida. And as we continue to also learn more about the investigation, what they're asking him right now, what are they trying to figure out? What caused him to do this? Our team is staying on top of this story. And right now we are actually preparing to get ready for our normal newscast, First Coast News at 5, which is going to start in about 3 minutes or so.
Ken Jefferson, we want to thank you for your expertise. We'll continue to hear from you. And the big headline, NBC News reporting the suspected shooter is from Jacksonville. More on First Coast News at 5.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with First Coast News and First Coast News Plus, coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Extended weather coverage with First Coast News and First Coast News Plus.
We have new details about a heavy police presence in Jacksonville Beach.
Driver fired gunshots along the interstate today, prompting a police chase.
Breaking overnight, police are investigating an officer-involved shooting.
Breaking news, a major crash on I-95.
Routine controlled burn got out of control. First Coast News was the only station there.
Stream extended coverage on First Coast News Plus.
Nothing breeds competition and camaraderie in a community like sports. Your First Coast Sports team understands that. We go beyond the X's and O's, straight to the heart of the game, where the real stories are told.
The First Coast News Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time. Track how the weather will impact your day. All the local news you need. First Coast News Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free.
Well, I would love to say thank you to Anthony.
Thank you times a million. Thank you for listening to me and taking me seriously.
In the military, the biggest form of respect is a salute. So we salute you and we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Anthony, from the bottom of my heart, you are a great person.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
Anthony was so kind as to go to the city manager, find out what the problem was.
It's great that there's someone that's really true to their word and can really help with what they say they can. I have been through hell, and Anthony just was the first person to reach his hand out and help me.
If I had to do it all over again, Anthony would be my first call.
If you live in a small town of Waycross, Georgia, home of the Okefenokee Small, you just ask Anthony and he's going to come and he's going to deal with it.
That's right. Just having Anthony also know your side, that's a big deal.
It is a weather impact alert day on the First Coast.
Octopus. What? It's like you got to hand out like informational flyers to parents now. Don't let your child. I mean, I'm sure there was a sign. You know, that said, don't pet the octopus, but yeah. All right, let me see here. I can't believe people are showing his kid's picture. His picture's kids. All right, this is, let me go to this real quick. This is news. Hold on, come on, StreamYard, at least give us the option to go from a photo to a video without having to shut it down, bring it back up, and then flip it around, and then twerk it, you know? All right, here we go. This is News Station. My God, I feel like that's what we got to do.
Just for our audience, get the mugshot in from that DUI that was referenced with the alleged shooter, Sergeant Radford.
The street from our studios because we have a severe thunderstorm warning for much of the First Coast. So we're checking the skies right now. We want to check in with Chief Meteorologist Lewis Turner.
Good evening, guys. Yeah, very busy evening for a very compact group here with the severe thunderstorm warning. So you can see where all the lightning is located, where this yellow box is. I'm going to take the lightning off, but I do just want to emphasize tons of lightning strikes here over the last 10, 15 minutes or so. This is the severe thunderstorm warning, including Mandarin, kind of the northern extent. So very southern Duval County into northern St. John's.
They're going to be coming back. There's like some doctor or something on there. Hold on. Here's the kit here. I'll show you the part about the octopus. What's up, Fuzzball? I'll show you a part about the octopus.
But the aquarium is pointing the finger at the mom.
Yeah.
Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood with the story.
I'd point the finger at the mom too. Why the hell you let your kid pet a freaking octopus?
The San Antonio Aquarium is blaming a Texas mom for that now viral encounter between her 6-year-old and a giant Pacific octopus in the touch tank.
It felt like my mom.
Oh, whoa, wait a minute. It was a touch tank? Oh, well, that's different. They have touch tanks? Why in the... I'm sorry, I'm still not petting an octopus.
We covered. You remember how we're out there and awaiting the president to come out and speak to the American people? Well, sometimes we'd have to tap dance for about an hour. Sometimes we'd have to tap. Fold. This will be at the Oval Office. So we'll see what kind of questions are asked to the president, and we'll see the details about this announcement. Again, just to review a little bit, as it's again, 5:01, President Trump said earlier, my special envoy, Steve Witkoff, just had a highly productive meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. There is, I know him, and we're going there right now.
Talk first about the India tariffs, which went up to 50% today. It's important to understand that the rationale for the India tariffs are very different from the reciprocal tariffs. This was a pure national security issue associated with India's abject refusal to stop buying Russia oil. And the math of this, every American needs to understand because it's related to the trade situation. You start with the fact that India is the Maharaja of tariffs. It's the highest tariffs in the world, charging on American products, and it's got high non-tariff barriers, so we can't get our products in. So we send a lot of dollars overseas to India to buy their products in an unfair trade environment. India then uses American dollars to buy Russian oil. Russia then uses those American dollars that come from India to finance its armaments to kill Ukrainians. And then American taxpayers are then called upon to pay for the weapons that have to defend Ukraine against Russian armaments paid for by American dollars that came from India. That's got to stop. That math doesn't work. The president understands the connection between economic security and national security. So that was the bottom line there. Second thing, totally unrelated. I want to talk just briefly and make one point about the Russia hoax because I've been.
Can I ask you about the India tariffs first?
The money that India makes selling those oil products on the international
Correct.
market. Australia, where I'm from, buys a fair bit
Yes.
From India. Has the
Yes.
administration got its eye on countries that are then buying
Yeah,
their products?
we're looking at that all. It's got to stop. I mean, again, think about what I just told you. It's like American dollars buy Indian products, and that sets in motion where those dollars finance a war, which then requires American taxpayers to pay for defending against the Russian armaments. So that kind of trade doesn't work. Okay, that just doesn't work. Now let me just really shift gears radically because I want to talk a little bit about the Russia hoax, the Grassley report, and the Durham Annex, which came out last week. I had been working with Senator Grassley's office. I got to give him three cheers because he's been working relentlessly to get out the information about the Russia hoax. And here's what I want to say. I went to prison, as did Steve Bannon, for defending the Constitution. But there isn't a single person associated with the Russia hoax that's been held accountable. And the list is a long one. It goes Obama, Clinton, FBI Director Comey, and other people worked there, like Page and Strzok. It involved the intelligence community and Brennan and Clapper, and the importance of the Durham Annex. The importance of the Durham Annex is that ties it all together and brings also in George Soros and his son Alex and the Open Society Foundation. And there is this is the most sophisticated political scandal that's ever been engineered. No one's been held accountable. Good for Attorney General Pam Bondi for pursuing that. And the most important thing I can tell you, if people are not held accountable for the Russia hoax, they will do it again. If people are not held accountable, they will do it again. And that's what I'm most concerned about. Okay?
Do you believe a secondary sanction still going in place tomorrow? What's the latest decision on that? We had heard yes, but then there was some confusion.
I'm going to check for you.
So it's TBD.
I've had to say what I've had to say. What I do, Caitlin, is I think you know this. I never get ahead of the boss. What I try to do is when news is done, then I'll come out and tell you what I think it means.
So not clear if the potential.
I asked and answered. Okay, thanks for your patience.
So you would like countries that are buying refined oil
I didn't
products from
say
India
that.
to
I
stop?
didn't say that. You asked me a question whether we were looking at the chessboard. I can assure you we are. Okay, thanks for being civil today.
Thanks, Peter. We're civil every day.
Okay, Peter Navarro, of course, the senior counselor for trade and manufacturing. The name Roger Stone popped in my head for a second there as I was tossing over there, but both Roger and Peter had to deal with jail time. And isn't it interesting? The same thing that Peter Navarro is saying is the same information that you're hearing right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. So on the same page, we have to hold people accountable, or as he said, he's afraid that it would happen again when it comes to this Russia hoax. But, you know, there were so many other crimes too. So
Okay, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you very much. You know this gentleman, one of the truly great legends of our time, my book. Before we begin, I'd like to say a few words about the shooting at Fort Stewart in Georgia. As you know, 5 people were seriously wounded and 2 very, very seriously hurt around 11 o'clock this morning. The shooter is now in custody, and the Army Criminal Investigation Division is on site to ensure that the perpetrator of this atrocity, which is exactly what it is, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The entire nation is praying for the victims and their families, and hopefully they'll fully recover, and we can put this chapter behind, but we're not going to forget what happened. We're going to take very good care of this person that did this horrible person. This afternoon, we're pleased to welcome to the White House one of the great and most esteemed business leaders and geniuses and innovators anywhere in the world, Apple CEO Tim Cook. Amazing job. Thanks as well to Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick for being here, wherever you may be. Oh, there you are. Hello, fellas. I missed you. Today, Apple is announcing that it will invest $600 billion, that's with a B, in the United States over the next 4 years. That's $100 billion more than they were originally going to invest. And this is the largest investment Apple has ever made in America and anywhere else. And it's just an honor to have you. As you know, Apple's been an investor in other countries a little bit. I won't say which ones, but a couple. And they're coming home. $600 billion. It's the biggest there is. The company is also unveiling its ambitious new American manufacturing program, which will bring factories and assembly lines across our country all roaring to life. Areas that were not doing so well are doing very well. We have about $17 trillion coming into the United States, which is more than ever before. That's never even come close. There's never been anything like it. Even you, that's even a lot of money for you. But we have commitments of more than $17 trillion. That was as of a couple of weeks ago. These investments will directly create more than 20,000 brand new American jobs and many thousands more at the Apple suppliers like Corning, Broadcom, Texas Instruments, and Samsung, who all deal in that world. As part of this historic commitment, Apple will massively increase spending on its domestic supply chain for the iPhone and will build the largest and most sophisticated smart glass production line in the world in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, which is a great, actually, I did very well there. I like it because I see I did very well there. I did very well in Kentucky, but it's a great place. You're going to be very happy. I thought maybe while we're up, I'll interrupt my own speech by you might show them a little bit about the product that you're going to be doing in Kentucky, Tim.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I step up?
Yes, please.
This box was made in the U.S., California, and this glass comes off the Corning line. It's engraved for President Trump. It's a unique unit of one. It was designed by a U.S. Marine Corps corporal, a former one, that works at Apple now.
He's done well.
Designed it for you. And the base comes from Utah and is 24 karat gold. And it sits, I'll take the liberty of setting it up.
Wow.
Well, let's see. There we go. Congratulations.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
President.
It's
Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
The great people of Kentucky. You're going to find it a great place to do business too. It's fantastic. Isn't that nice? We're doing these things now in the United States instead of other countries, faraway countries. This is a significant step toward the ultimate goal of ensuring that iPhones sold in the United States of America also are made in America. With the mass infusion of capital it's announcing today, Apple will also build a 250,000 square foot server manufacturing facility in Houston and invest billions of dollars to construct data centers across the country from North Carolina to Iowa to Oregon. That's big stuff. Apple will also open state-of-the-art manufacturing economy. It's going to be a manufacturing academy in Detroit, and that's a great place to do. You know, big things are happening in Michigan and Detroit. They're coming in because of what we've done with the, I call it the great, big, beautiful bill. I added one word, great. But we have probably the biggest, most comprehensive piece of legislation ever passed. It's going to mean unbelievable numbers of jobs and no jobs on, think of this, whether it's tips or overtime or Social Security, no tax. So no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. And there's just a small bit of it. For Apple and others businesses, we're talking about the deductions and all of the things. And actually for people that go out and buy a car, first time it's ever been done, we talk about deductions for companies, but they're going to be able to deduct interest when they borrow money to buy a car if it's made in America. It has to be made in America. So it is amazing. And one of the reasons I think I can say that Apple's coming here is the legislation we just passed with this kind of investment. Apple will also open other facilities, rare earth magnets from Texas, and build, oh, I love that you're doing this. I love that. I love that. And build a brand new rare earth recycling line in Mountain Pass, California. I know that area. That's where they have a lot of truly rare earth. That's fantastic. I love that. And Apple will help develop and manufacture semiconductors and semiconductor equipment in Texas, Utah, Arizona, and New York. For years, Americans have watched as many of our leading tech giants built their factories overseas and exported American jobs abroad. But under the Trump administration, we're doing everything possible to make this the best place on earth to build a factory or grow businesses. I'm allowing them to build electric producing plants with their factory, because otherwise they'd have to hook into the grid. And I think it's one of the biggest things we've done, where you can build, Tim, your own electricity. You become your own electric manufacturer, and that goes along with the plant. So you become a utility. So congratulations, now you're in the utility. I hope they don't value your company based on utility, but that's okay. You're going to be making your own electricity. And as you probably know, for much of this and many of the things that we're doing, especially the AI, they would need actually double the electricity that the country now produces for everything. So it's massive electric, and they're going to be able to make their own, and they're getting very fast approvals. Lee Zeldin is doing a fantastic job, including with a 100% expensing on the one big, beautiful bill. In return, we're asking our businesses to invest in America, and they're coming in at levels that we've never seen before. So I don't know when it shows up, but there are a lot of factories and a lot of plants that are either under construction or soon will be starting construction. So can't tell you exactly when, but I want to be around in about a year from now and 2 years from now, because we're going to see an explosion, I think, like this country has never seen before. Never. Today's announcement is one of the largest commitments in what has become among the greatest investment booms in our nation's history. And we've got the hottest country anywhere in the world. You know, I told you the story that, and Tim, I'll tell you, but I went to the Middle East and I was with Qatar, I was with UAE and the King of Saudi Arabia, all great leaders. And then I went to NATO and saw many great leaders, and we just finished that about 4 weeks ago. Everyone, virtually everyone said, in effect, that we were a dead country 1 year ago. America, this was a dead country. We were dying, we were dead. And now you've got the hottest country anywhere in the world. This would have never happened except for certain people. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. NVIDIA is investing $500 billion to go along with Apple, $600 billion. $600 billion. Micron, great company, is investing $200 billion. IBM is investing more than $150 billion. SoftBank is investing substantially more than $100 billion. TSMC is investing $200 billion. Johnson & Johnson, $55 billion. Merck, Stellantis, and General Motors are putting many, many billions in. They haven't determined the final number. And many other countries are investing tens of billions of dollars that I'm not going to give you the whole list because the list is too long to read. But it's hundreds of billions and even trillions. I mean, it's trillions of dollars is being invested right now. Last week, it was announced that our economy grew at 3% in the second quarter, and consumer confidence is surging. Blue-collar wages are rising rapidly. Costs are way down. You know, I listen to these horrendous frauds on CNN and various other fake news networks, and they say costs are up. No, costs are down. Gasoline is down. It's going to soon, I believe, be less than $2 a gallon. It's around $2.40 right now, many places other than California where they tax you out of business, but and a couple of others. But gasoline is way down. The price of groceries are down. How about eggs? When I first came here, my first week, the press hit me very hard on eggs. Eggs had quadrupled or something. I said, I didn't know about it. Give me a chance. I've just been here for 4 days. Well, eggs are down. Everything's down. Price is down. The only thing that's up is stock prices. That's really up, and that's through the roof. The stock market has been hitting all-time records, all-time highs. Last week, it was announced that our economy grew at levels that we haven't seen in a long time. But the real levels of growth are going to be judged in a year from now when you start seeing some of these incredible plants, because we have car plants opening. They're coming in from Canada, from Mexico, and from all over the world. And they're coming in because they like the way the election worked out, but they also like the fact that they don't want to pay tariffs. And the tariffs, I think, will be we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. I won't be so specific other than to say, because we don't even know what the final number is. We just made a deal, as you know, with the EU where they're paying hundreds of billions of dollars. Japan paying hundreds of billions of dollars, and numerous other countries paying hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're not even completed there. And as you know, they found 25 billion 3 weeks ago. They said, we have a surplus of $25 billion. And they said, where did this come from? I said, check the tariffs. And they checked. They said, you're right. That's where it came from. And we've really just started. This is just in its infancy. So we have a great country. We have a country that is going to be very rich. It's a country that we're very proud of, but it's going to be very rich. And it's companies like Apple, they're coming home. They're all coming home. And we want them to come home. They have to come home. We're going to treat them really well. We're going to be putting a very large tariff on chips and semiconductors. But the good news for companies like Apple is if you're building in the United States or have committed to build, without question, committed to build in the United States, there will be no charge. In other words, we're not going to be charging. So a lot of countries, a lot of companies are leaving various other places and they're coming to the United States. So in other words, we'll be putting a tariff on of approximately 100% on chips and semiconductors. But if you're building in the United States of America, there's no charge, even though you're building and you're not producing yet in terms of the big numbers of jobs and all of the things that you're building. If you're building, there will be no charge. So I just want everyone to know that. And I didn't even tell you that inside. We discussed the concept, but I didn't. So it's a big factor. So 100% tariff on all chips and semiconductors coming into the United States. But if you've made a commitment to build, or if you're in the process of building, as many are, there is no tariff. Okay? If for some reason you say you're building and you don't build, then we go back and we add it up, it accumulates, and we charge you at a later date. You have to pay, and that's a guarantee. So that's a big statement, and I think the chip companies are all coming back home. They're all coming back. You know, we started with Intel, and gradually Intel was just taken over the coals. They were taken to the cleaners, frankly, and moved to other places, in particular Taiwan. But I think a lot of those companies are coming back, and they're coming back very rapidly. So that's a big statement. 100% tariff. I want to thank you very much, Tim. Would you like to say a few words about your company, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. President, thank you very much for having me here today. You've been a great advocate for American innovation and manufacturing. I'm grateful for your leadership and your commitment. That's a commitment we share at Apple because American innovation is central to everything we do. Our products are designed here, we're hiring and growing here, and we support 450,000 jobs with thousands of suppliers and partners in all 50 states. Earlier this year, we made our largest ever spending commitment, $500 billion to the U.S. over the next 4 years. That's already yielding results. Earlier this year, we broke ground on a new factory in Houston to make advanced AI servers. And just last month, the very first test unit rolled off that factory's line, proudly made in America. President Trump shared some kind words about that work, but he also asked us to think about what more we could commit to doing. And Mr. President, we took that challenge very seriously. I'm glad to be here with you today, and I'm very proud to say that today we're committing an additional $100 billion to the United States, bringing our total U.S. investment to $600 billion over the next 4 years. As a part of this, we're launching Apple's American Manufacturing Program. It will spur even more production right here in America for critical components used in Apple products all around the world. And we're thrilled to announce that we've already signed new agreements with 10 companies across America to do just that. First, with today's announcements, I'm proud to say that Apple is leading the creation of an end-to-end silicon supply chain right here in America, from design to equipment to wafer production to fabrication to packaging. In Texas, we're working with manufacturers like Texas Instruments, Global Wafers America, and Applied Materials. We're working with Amcor in Arizona and Broadcom and Global Foundries in New York. Thanks to President Trump's vision, and with his help in his first term, we also led the way to bring TSMC to Arizona by committing to be their first and largest customer. Today, they're producing tens of millions of chips for Apple using one of the most advanced process technologies in America today. We're going to keep working with our suppliers to move even more of this incredibly advanced work to America. And this year alone, American manufacturers are on track to make 19 billion chips for Apple in 24 factories across 12 different states. Second, we're committed to buying American-made advanced rare earth magnets developed by MP Materials which will become part of Apple's devices shipped around the world. MP is the only fully integrated rare earth producer in the United States, and with this partnership, they'll be significantly expanding their flagship facility in Fort Worth, Texas. We're also thrilled to work together on a cutting-edge rare earth recycling line in Mountain Pass, California. And third, in Kentucky, we've worked with our partners at Corning to build the world's largest and most advanced smartphone glass production line. And I'm pleased to announce that very soon, this is for the first time ever, every single new iPhone and every single new Apple Watch sold anywhere in the world will contain cover glass made in Kentucky. In addition to the American Manufacturing Program, we're also significantly growing our investments in AI, including expanding data center capacity in North Carolina, in Nevada, in Iowa, in Arizona, and Oregon. So we're going to keep making investments right here in America. We're going to keep hiring in America. And we're going to keep building technologies at the heart of our products right here in America. Because we're a proud American company and we believe deeply in the promise of this great nation. Thank you all, and thank you, President Trump, for putting American innovation and American jobs front and center. Thank you, sir.
Great honor.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
What a job he's done. What a job. Incredible. I want to thank you very much. And thank you, JD, for helping along. Good job. Really good job. Any questions, please?
Mr. President,
yes.
You promised on the campaign trail to bring forth a manufacturing renaissance. You just mentioned $17 trillion in your first 7 months or so.
Right.
Can you talk about how an investment like this, all the other ones that you laid out, will positively impact the millions of Americans that trusted you with their vote?
Thank you very much. It changes our country. I mean, our country is a very different country than it was 6 months ago. And people like Tim are coming. We had Micron in yesterday. We had all of the big, great companies that you read about, you don't know about, but you read about. Many of them were making products outside of our country. Foolishly, we lost them. If we had the right person sitting in that seat, that would have never happened 20 and 30 years ago. When you look at the chip business, it would have never left our shores. We had 100% of chips originally, and then we slowly got taken down to nothing. We have the biggest chip companies, the both of them, but we have the biggest in the world coming in. They're going to Arizona and beyond. And we're going to have, in a short period of time, we'll be up to almost 50% of the chips from starting in nothing. And that's something. But we have the greatest companies in the world coming into our country. And that means jobs, and it means wealth. And wealth means security for our people. Okay? Brian?
Yes, sir. Congratulations on this investment. President Trump and
thank you.
With a great example of putting America first. What does the labor force look like to fill these jobs that you have? Do we have enough skilled American workers to fill these?
Well, we do have a lot of workers, and we have a lot of workers that hadn't been looking for work because they were disincentivized, frankly. And people like Tim have tremendous schools and training centers that they build along with a lot of their big plants where they train people on whether it's glass, like in Kentucky, or computers, or whatever they might be doing. It's a complex world, and they train people, and they do a great job. So it's a whole new workforce. Now, we have a lot of them in energy because, you know, they've always liked energy. As you know, coal has opened up big. We brought it back and brought it back in a very large way. You know, China's right now building 58 coal-fired plants, 58 big ones. And here we were saying, we don't take coal. We have more coal than anybody else in the world. We have more oil and gas than anybody else in the world. But we have tremendous energy jobs. And the energy, as you know, we're booming with energy. And that's why the gasoline prices are down. The costs are down. I just hope when they watch these shows, I watch this, I won't use names because I just make them better known that nobody knows who they are. But I watch this group of people on CNN and MSDNC too, the same thing, where they say, well, costs have gone up. Costs haven't gone up, they've gone down. I'm telling you, the thing that's gone up is stock prices and success of our country. Our country is really, really doing well, successful. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. President, have Putin and Zelensky agreed to a summit yet? And where and when would that be?
Well, there's a very good prospect that they will. And we haven't determined where, but we had some very good talks with President Putin today. And there's a very good chance that we could be ending the round, ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon. Excuse me?
How close do you think you are to some kind of deal?
Well, I don't want to say. I've been disappointed before with this one. You know, we've solved 5 wars, plus add to that Iran, where we wiped out their nuclear capacity for weapons. They would have had a weapon within 2 months, maybe less. And that was totally obliterated. Turned out it was a total obliteration. And the pilots and the people that did that job are really, we have the greatest armed forces in the world, but that was really something. In fact, there's a model of the plane right there. So, you got to bring that up, Susie. We have to see that. Look at this. This was just given to me. You know, we ordered brand new B-2 bombers. This is a plane that over a period of 36 hours of constant flying. Look at this. So this is the brand new one they just ordered. Similar, but actually quite different. It's new and enhanced. It's an amazing machine. It went 36 hours. We had 52 tankers up in the air loading up our planes because this was surrounded by F-22s and F-35s, and it was flawless, Tim. Even you would say it was flawless. And every one of those bombs hit their target. And then we had Tomahawks shot in from a submarine 300 miles away, and they hit every single Tomahawk hit its target. It was amazing. And that was a big threat. That was a nuclear threat. And here's the new one that we just ordered, a large number of them. I'll put it up.
Mr. President, what was the breakthrough today? Did Vladimir Putin make some kind of concession that he hasn't been willing to make before?
I don't call it a breakthrough. I mean, we've been working on this a long time. There are thousands of young people dying, mostly soldiers, but also, missiles being hit into Kiev and other places. But in terms of soldiers, I think Russia's lost over 20,000 since the beginning of the year, 20,000. And I guess the estimate for Ukraine is about 9,000. It's a terrible situation. We want to get it stopped. We don't have American soldiers there, but I feel I have an obligation to get it stopped. This was not my war. This war would have never started, not even a chance. And it didn't start for 4 years. It went 4 years and it didn't start. But this is Biden's war. This was on his watch. And, it's funny. We had no land was taken from Trump. It was taken from Bush. It was taken from Biden. The whole thing they would take from Biden. It weren't for us. But it was taken by Obama. Take a look at what was taken with all of the land that was taken. Nothing was taken by Russia from us. Not 1 ounce of land was taken. I'm here to get the thing over with. It would have never started if I were president. And we're here to get it stopped and get the death stopped. Yeah, please.
President, in the past, you said you would know if Putin was hacking you wrong. What
Yeah.
gives you any confidence that he is or isn't doing that this time around?
Can't answer the question yet. I'll tell you in a matter of weeks, maybe less. But we've made a lot of progress. And as you know, we put a 50% tariff on India on oil. They're the second largest. They're very close to China in terms of the purchase of oil from Russia. But so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. But we've had very productive talks today. Yes, ma'am.
President Trump, on federalizing DC, are you considering taking over the DC police? Is that an option on the table?
We're considering it, yeah, because the crime is ridiculous. I could show you a chart comparing DC to other locations, and you're not going to want to see what it looks like. It was just up on television, actually. They were showing it. Now, we want to have a great, safe capital, and we're going to have it. And that includes cleanliness and it includes other things. We have a capital that's very unsafe. We just almost lost a young man, beautiful, handsome guy that got the hell knocked out of him the night before last. And I'm going to call him now. We wanted to give him a little recovery time. We just put a call into him. They're calling back in a little while, but he went through a bad situation, to put it mildly, and there's too much of it. We're gonna do something about it. So whether you call it federalized or what, and that also includes the graffiti that you see, the papers all over the place, the roads that are in bad shape, the medians that are falling down, the median in between roads that's falling down. We're going to beautify the city. We're going to make it beautiful. And what a shame. The rate of crime, the rate of muggings, killings, and everything else. We're not going to let it. And that includes bringing in the National Guard, maybe very quickly, too.
And do you want Congress to look at overturning the DC Home Rule Act?
We're going to look at that. In fact, the lawyers are already studying it. We have to run DC. This has to be the best run place in the country, not the worst run place in the country. And it has so much potential, and we're going to take care of it. You're going to be safe. You're going to be safe walking down streets. You're not going to get mugged.
Mr. President, if you do reach a deal with Ukraine and Russia, would you drop the additional tariffs on India?
Well, we'll determine that later, but right now they're paying a 50% tariff. Okay.
Yeah, please. One for Mr. Cook as well.
Yeah, please. Sure.
The president wants a made in the USA iPhone. What are the chances that you can actually make that happen?
Well, if you look at the bulk of it, we're doing a lot of the semiconductors here. We're doing the glass here. We're doing the Face ID module here. And so there's a ton of it. And we're doing these for products sold elsewhere in the world. And so there's a lot of content in there from the United States.
But what about the whole thing?
We're very proud of it.
Can you make the whole thing
is
here?
just the final assembly that you're focused on. And that will be elsewhere for a while.
He makes many of the components here, and we've been talking about it, and the whole thing is set up at other places, and it's been there for a long time. So in terms of cost and all, but I think we may incentivize him enough that one day he'll be bringing that. But he brings most of the stuff. Look, he's not making this kind of an investment anywhere in the world, not even close. He's coming back. I mean, Apple's coming back to America. Thank you.
Mr. President, Indian officials.
Let me go, please.
Indian officials have said that there are other countries that are buying Russian oil.
It's okay.
Like China, for instance,
It's
buying
okay.
more.
Yeah.
Why are you singling India out for these additional
It's
sanctions?
only been 8 hours. So let's see what happens over the next.
Sanctions
You're going to see a lot more.
So this is a taste of
You're
what's
going to
to
see a
come.
lot more. You're
Mr.
going to see so much secondary sanctions. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, you were the driving force behind Operation Warp Speed, these mRNA vaccines that are the gold standard.
Right.
Now your health secretary is pulling back all the funding for research. He's saying that the risks outweigh the benefits, which puts him at odds with
Research
the
on
entire
what?
medical community and with you. What is going
Yeah.
on
Research on what?
into mRNA vaccines?
Well, we're going to look at that. We're talking about it, and they're doing a very good job. And, that is a past. With Operation Warp Speed was, whether you're Republican or Democrat, considered one of the most incredible things ever done in this country. The efficiency, the way it was done, the distribution, everything about it has been amazing. But, that was now a long time ago. And we're on to other things, but we are speaking about it. We have meetings about it tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and we'll determine. We're looking for other answers to other problems, to other sicknesses and diseases. And I think we're doing really well. Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said many times that you want to stop wars in the Middle East. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu is contemplating reoccupying Gaza entirely. Is he defying you, sir, or are you giving him a green light?
Well, we have stopped wars in the Middle East by stopping Iran from having a nuclear weapon. And they're they can say they're going to start all over again, but that's a very dangerous thing for them to do, because we'll be back. As soon as they start, we'll be back. And I think they understand that. They're just words. But no, we've stopped a lot of wars in the Middle East. If you think about what we did with Iran, Iran was the perpetrator of hate, a very evil place. And I think it's going to be a lot different in the coming years.
On the India penalties, Do you have any similar plans to enact more tariffs on China as it relates
Could
to their
happen,
purchases?
could happen. Depends on how we do. Could happen.
Mr. President,
Brian,
yes, I've got an entertainment-based question for you. A few weeks ago, Stephen Colbert announced that he was leaving his show. Howard Stern announced that he and Sirius XM Radio are parting ways. Do you think the hate Trump business model that's been in the entertainment business is going out of business because it's not popular with the American people?
Well, it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked really for a long time. And I would say pretty much from the beginning, Colbert has no talent. I mean, I could take anybody here. I could go outside on the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings than he did. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that. Howard Stern, it's a name I haven't heard. I used to do a show, used to have fun, but I haven't heard that name in a long time. What happened? He got terminated?
Yeah, they're going to separate ways because I think what they're offering salary-wise is real low for what he's getting.
You know when he went down?
Whenever you want.
You know when he went down? No, before. When he endorsed Hillary Clinton, he lost his audience. People said, give me a break. He went down when he endorsed Hillary Clinton.
Mr. President, have you talked to Governor Cuomo interviewing Fed candidates yet?
Yeah, we've started the interviewing process. Scott and I and Howard, a lot of people, JD, we have some great candidates. It's probably down to 3. He doesn't want the job. He said, do you like this job better?
Yes, sir.
I mean, he was a candidate, but I don't think he'll take it. I really don't think he'd take it, actually.
From Wall Street, Mr. President?
Yeah, essentially, we're all from Wall Street, aren't we? You know, when you get right down to it, the term Wall Street. Yeah, please.
Yep, you made your tax cuts permanent. You mentioned that the tariffs are bringing in a ton of external revenue. You've opened up markets, the EU, Japan, South Korea, many others, to American goods like we've never seen before. How much growth can we expect in the economy now that this model of yours is sort of beginning to really take off?
Well, I think the growth is going to be unprecedented. I think we're going to have growth that's unbelievable. Now, remember, we're building and just starting to build a lot of these incredible plants. We talked about the electric facilities that we're building, the generating plants, electric generating plants are massive, and to our grid. So we're going to be having much more electricity than we ever had, and those plants are going to be taken care of individually. I know Tim is building one in one of his big factories, but especially for AI because it needs so much electricity. So I appreciate the question very much. And I think the growth is going to be unprecedented.
Mr. President, did you have a phone call with Andrew Cuomo? Did you speak to Andrew Cuomo?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Mr. President, have you been briefed on what Ghislaine Maxwell told Todd Blanche?
No, I haven't. Have
You
not.
don't know whether
I
it
don't
came
know.
up in the
I know Todd is a
conversation or
very respected person all over the country, all over the world legally. So I don't know. Yeah, please go ahead.
Will the new Fed governor be temporary?
We're probably going to go with a temp and then a permanent, I think.
Are the two?
So the temp is going to be named, I'd say, over the next 2-3 days, and then we're going to go permanent.
Are the two Kevins the leading contenders for the permanent spot for the chair?
Well, the two Kevins are absolutely, yeah, they're both very good.
Mr. President.
The two Kevins, very good.
Mr. President, is Vice President Vance hosting a gathering this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
Is he working on what?
Is he hosting some kind of gathering of top advisors this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
I don't know. I could ask you that question. I don't know of it, but I think here's the man right here.
I saw it reported today, and it's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country. And that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bullshit. Okay? Yeah, please.
A new Gallup poll says that Elon Musk is the most unpopular public figure in the country right now. I'm wondering, do you miss having him around the White House, or is that poll accurate?
I don't know if the poll's accurate. I think he's a good person. I think he had a bad moment, really bad moment. But he's a good person. I believe that.
President Trump, are you keeping that 10 to 12 day deadline?
China facing potential secondary sanctions for
Yeah.
Russian oil. Them having that tariff or sanction rather, or not hinges on what going forward.
It may happen. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you yet, but we did it with India. We're doing it probably with a couple of others. One of them could be China. Yes.
Are you keeping that 10 to 12 day deadline that you had given Russia after today's talks?
Yeah, we're pretty much getting close to it right now, but we're having very serious talks right now about getting out of Ukraine, getting it settled, getting it ended. Should have never started, would have never started. If I were president, it would have never started. I want to thank Tim Cook. He's a great, great man, a visionary, a businessman, just about every quality he can have other than athleticism. I don't know about that. I'm looking at him. I'm not 100% sure about you. You're a good athlete. I'll bet you're pretty good. I think he's good at everything, but I want to thank you very much, Tim. Congratulations. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, guys. Let's go. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Right behind you. Thanks, guys. Right this way. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred.
Come on over here. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Gotta go. Thank you, Fred.
Files about other issues that she's been talking about, but we'll get that to you later.
Okay. Julie Sirkin in the Golf Whisper from inside that meeting. I will let you and everybody else there listen to what the Congresswoman has to say. Julie, thank you very much. We got a lot more coverage coming up right here. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more.
So we want to verify some information as we continue to learn information about this shooting that unfolded just before 11 o'clock today at Fort Stewart in Georgia. Here are some additional details that we can verify at this hour. The Army identifying the suspect as Army Sergeant Cornelius Radford. We're told that he does have ties to Florida. We're working right now to learn if any ties are to Jacksonville or to the First Coast area. We can verify 5 soldiers have been shot. It all happened this morning. The Army confirms all 5 are now stable. And that brings us to what is false. None of the victims have been identified at this time publicly. We do understand that their next of kin have been notified. However, the military has not released the victims' names. Now, during the Army's press briefing at 3:30, just a little under an hour ago, about 45 minutes ago, they confirmed that they would not release the names of the victims right now. But we do know they are all co-workers of the suspect. And right now, the big question is, what is the motive? What led this shooter to open fire on a base this morning? And we do not know his motive, but we know that police, that the military, lots of people right now working to try to lead up, figure out what led up to today's events, and figure out the motives. We now know that shooter, identified as a sergeant, that they say opened fire in his workplace on his co-workers. NBC News reporting that this sergeant is believed to be from Jacksonville.
And I'm just looking right now, Heather, and we just got confirmation actually from Liberty County from a lieutenant there that Mr. Rafford was indeed arrested and charged by the Georgia State Patrol on May 18th of this year.
Okay, and his commanding chain did not know about this DUI. So we know in May, arrested for a DUI.
And so just mentioning that, that's all we know about him as far as anything that happened that was kind of out of character, because he had no disciplinary issues within the military. As far as we know, they had never had any issues or any mental health concerns about him. So this is just the only thing we know about him when we're trying to look for a motive. You know, sometimes you might hear when it comes to people who commit things like this, well, someone had noticed that, you know, they had issues in the past where they, you know, kind of showed signs of aggressiveness or had some kind of mental health concerns. But as far as we know about this guy, we don't have a lot of information about him having any previous problems.
And this is his mugshot from his DUI arrest in Liberty County. That's where Fort Stewart is. Cornelius Radford, a sergeant with the Army, 28 years old. This is the mugshot when he was arrested back in May. We have now confirmed that. We understand, according to NBC News, they're reporting that he is from Jacksonville. We don't have that independently confirmed outside of NBC News, but we're working to get more information on that. But you're looking at the picture of the suspected shooter at Fort Stewart, Cornelius Radford. This is his mugshot from May. Now, today, we understand that his coworkers tackled him and held him while police were able to get on the scene and quickly take him into custody. We don't know, Ken, we haven't heard if he was injured or any details on that as far as that goes, right?
As far as that goes, we have not, but there has not also been a report that he was transported to the hospital prior to being arrested.
Pulling up this post here from our Fox 5 Atlanta team. We're learning here that a lockdown is currently in place at Georgia's Fort Stewart after what officials are calling an active shooter incident. Authorities announced on Facebook that Fort Stewart Commander Colonel William Gabe Weaver has issued a lockdown for the base and the Wright and Evans Army Airfield. Here's that quote. He said, "Lock down your facility immediately, stay inside, close and lock all windows and doors, keep telephone lines open, and report accountability to your leadership." Army officials have confirmed that the lockdown was put in place around 11:04 today. And I did want to share with you here this post that we are also getting in here, as this is an active and developing story here. This is from their Facebook. So again, Fort Stewart is in a lockdown status due to an active shooter incident in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team area. The installation lockdown, again, 11:04 a.m. and law enforcement is on the scene at this time. Casualties have been reported and the situation is ongoing. Follow our platforms for more information. So once again, a key part of this, the Army officials confirming that the lockdown was put into place shortly this morning. And we do know that there are casualties that have been reported. Here is another post coming in here from Fox News, as we do continue to follow all of this here. Once again, this is in Georgia. So just for some perspective, this is about 50 minutes south of Savannah, Georgia, if you are wondering where exactly Fort Stewart is located. Once again, law enforcement officers on the scene right now. Due to the lockdown, all gates into the Army post are currently closed, as well as several nearby elementary schools have been placed on a soft lockdown out of an abundance of caution. That's according to the Liberty County school system on their Facebook page. So as I said here, Fort Stewart is located southwest of Savannah, and it's the largest Army post east of the Mississippi River. This is an active and developing story here. We're going to continue to monitor it for you here on Live Now from Fox. If we do get any additional information, we are going to bring it to you here. But once again, Fort Stewart on lockdown. Injuries are reported during this active shooter incident. We'll continue to follow this story here, bring you any additional updates.
The golden age of America begins right now. America's decline is over. We will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth. I am with you. I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. The golden age of America begins right now.